Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto was exiled and claimed harem with Hinata, Temari, Yugito Kagura Mei Terumi Karui Yugito Samui Yugao Kuranai Anko to Yuya Fu Temari, Part 4. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this and comment for next part. And now let's start the fanfic. Tsunade sighed as she looked at the forest with expectation. The brat had better be, I'm not losing him just yet. She said with another sigh. You and me both. Kuranai said with a smirk, more confident in herself since her meeting with her Zanpakuto. I don't know how that Gaki has got you woman wrapped his finger. Jiraiya said with a shake of his head. Kagura chuckled with a grin on her face. The fact that he's a Viking in the sack helps, she said, causing some of the women there to drool and blush. Gurren and Tayuya felt like the odd ones out in the conversation, after seeing what Naruto was capable of doing and the lengths he would go for his people. They had decided that they would stay with the leaf, or more specifically Naruto. Just then the forest lit up in a black flash of light as the entire ground shook from its power. The only way they stood up is because of using chakra in their feet. Looking up they noticed how lightning seemed to be pouring over the explosion. Holy shit! Ino exclaimed. Nicely put, Kankuro said with a smirk. How the hell could Naruto withstand that? Sakura asked in shock. He has tougher skin than normal people, Kagura said while looking on in worry. What do you mean? Hinata asked. Ever since Naruto has gained his Zanpakuto he had become much stronger, and as he grew stronger, his skin also became tough to the point that a normal kunai would practically bounce off of him. He can take more damage than people realize, hell sometime I even forget, she said with a chuckle. Just then the bushes started to rustle, all of them got on guard for whoever would come out only to see Naruto, in his clothes he had left on which left him shirtless. Ryujin Jaka was strapped to his right while Tensa Zangetsu was in his left hand. His skin had scorch marks, his forehead was bleeding and he had numerous cuts on him with blood dribbling out of each. They got away, he said before his eyes rolled in the back of his head and fell forward. Naruto! Kagura shouted as she ran at him to catch him. Tsunade came over a second later and placed her hands over his body running a scan as her hands turned green. He's okay, just unconscious. He's extremely worn out though. All of that fighting must have really taken it out of him. We need to get him to the hospital, Tsunade told everyone as they started back to the village. With Yoruichi and Stark, he's much stronger than I first thought, Stark said with respect. They had just watched the entire fight since the Konoha nin had gotten there and were very impressed with the blonde with being able to keep up with a Bankai, even if Sasuke was holding back, most likely because Orochimaru was there. Did you see just before the lightning exploded? Yoruichi asked him with a serious face. And he had watched the boy, no, young man pull on his hollow mask at the last second by relinquishing one of his hands which caused the explosion in the end. Yes, he has control over it, that's a good thing anyway, Stark mentioned as he watched Naruto being carried away with the girls worrying over him. Come on, we better hurry. We have places to be, Yoruichi said with a frown as she wanted to see more the blonde. Right, Stark agreed before the both simply vanished. The next day, Konoha was on its way to recovery from all of the damage it had sustained from the last invasion. Shinobi of all ranks had been working 24/7 doing what they could to help with the repairs that certain parts of the village had taken most damage due to the main fights that had taken place. Never mind the mostly destroyed forest which Yamato had to rebuild using his Mokuden Jutsu. Gaara and his siblings had taken their shinobi back as soon as they needed to prepare their own village for any future invasions as they knew with Akatsuki still around that anything is possible. Gurren and Tayuya had been taken to the Anbu jail cells without the resisting as they knew this would happen, but they had wanted to speak to Naruto when he woke up which Tsunade had said she would make it happen. Kuranai, Yugao and Anko had gone home to rest since they live in the same apartment as since they worked together so much they found it easier to live together if something important came up. Kurenai had told them she now had her own Zanpakuto and it revolved around illusions, which didn't surprise the two kunoichi, although Anko felt slightly jealous that her friends had Zanpakuto and she didn't. Team 8, 10 and Guy had all gone back to their clan compounds to help with the repairs that would no doubt need doing, while Tenten and Lee had to go to their home as they didn't have a clan to go back to. Sakura had gone with Tsunade back to the hospital to start with the healing that would need doing for the shinobi that got injured in the invasion. While Jiraiya also went to the hospital just to make sure Naruto had been alright and checking up on Tsunade, knowing she was worried for Naruto despite him not being in danger. Kagura though hadn't left Naruto's side for a moment. She had slept on his hospital bed while he remained unconscious as she didn't want to leave him yet after just thinking he may have died in the explosion from Sasuke's attack. But Naruto hadn't woken up at all. Until now. Hospital. Naruto's room. Ringed violet gray eyes groggily opened ever so slowly as they were blinded by the light from outside. Opening them fully now adjusted, he noticed one thing about the room he was in. White. Every thing was white. The hospital. Naruto spat out in hate. What caught his attention next though was a yawn and some shifting on top of him. Looking down he was greeted to the sight of red hair. Kagura? He asked himself, not expecting an answer. She said as she stretched on top of him, unknowingly pressing her into him, making him groan. Looking up she saw the Rinnegan staring back at her. Naruto-kun, she shouted as she hugged him tightly. I thought that Sasuke was going to kill you when he launched that attack at you. Naruto chuckled as he hugged her back while stroking her hair. You know I'm tougher than that, he said with a joke. And you know I'll never leave you, there's too much for me to do here. Kagura pulled back before laying one of the most passionate kisses on his lips that left him breathless, before she smacked his head. Don't ever run off and fight such a dangerous battle ever again. You make me worry too damn much, she said with a smile. Naruto chuckled as he pulled back also. No promises, I'm afraid, he said with a smirk. Kagura looked up at Naruto with a confused look. How did you actually survive that attack from Sasuke anyway? Naruto sighed and looked up at her. I told you all about my inner hollow thing, right? He asked her and received a nod. Well, in the last moment as I saw it was going to explode, I brought out my hollow mask, which makes me stronger so that it helped to defend me against the attack, he said, making Kagura chuckle. What? He asked, confused. Kagura just shook her head. Saved by a mask? What has this world come to? She asked rhetorically while Naruto also chuckled. Kagura just chuckled and shook her head. Well, what's going to happen now? She asked him. Well, I got a letter from Mei the other. She needed help training the new Kiri no Shinobigatana Nananan Shu, he said with a smile while she raised an eyebrow. So we're going to Kiri then? When? She asked. We're not going anywhere, he said, making her look confused. You're going to go, he said, making her wide-eyed for a moment. What? Why me? She asked, looking puzzled. Because you'd be the best at teaching some people how to use Zanpakutos, he said, making her look shocked again. Yeah, apparently they all have Zanpakutos and the only one who can do vigorous training is you. Besides, you can't care any guy, they will learn better from you, he said with a voice full of confidence in her ability. Kagura sighed and gave a nod of her head. Fine. I'll get going soon, but Tsunade wanted to see you about the two sound nin who want to speak with you, she told him, causing the boy to raise an eyebrow. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. I'll see her later. For now I'm busy, he finished with a mischievous grin that actually turned Kagura on. Oh really? Doing what? She asked innocently while trailing her fingernails across his chest. Naruto chuckled and pulled her against him. I think you know. The next thing Kagura knew was that she was underneath him. Quote, now you're talking my language, laughed Kagura while hoping that the hospital staff doesn't hear them. Then again, getting caught is kinky. Later. Tsunade. Office. Tsunade was sitting behind her desk waiting for Naruto. She had heard he had woken up a few hours ago, and other than being low on his chakra he was perfectly healthy, which, if she was honest with herself, completely stunned her. From what she saw of his and Sasuke's battle would have led any normal person in hospital for days, and if you're unlucky, you may never leave the hospital. When she thought about the blonde's strength though, she realized how much he had been holding back in the tests. Despite everything though, she hadn't felt more proud of him before by becoming so strong, and yet in some way she knew he would face people stronger than him out there and it was worrying. A second later they opened revealing a fresh Naruto who now in his battle clothes with his twin Zanpakutos at his waists. Kagura said, "You needed me?" he asked as he sat down in front of her. "Yes, I did. Something has come up. By the way, where is Kagura?" she asked. And it was a good question too, as the blonde and redhead, or as she liked to dub them, Chibi Minato, and Chibi Kushina, well, they were always together. "I had to send her to Kiri, the maid Terumi. The Mizukage had asked for me or her to help train her new swordsman, and she's more suited for teaching. I can't scare men like the way she does," he said with a shiver at the end which brought a smile on her face. "I see, that's fine. Anyway, we have two people from Sound, one called Gurren and another called Tayuya, no surnames," she said, reading them off a piece of paperwork that laid in front of her. "They wanted to speak with you, something about joining you," she said with a smirk. "Joining me?" he asked, confused. "Yes. Tayuya has a Zanpakuto like yourself and knows the only one who can give her the proper training in them is you, and she says that being with you, fighting the good fight, will give her a home." She paused as she saw Naruto thinking over it, possibly thinking over the possibilities of having someone else with him. Of course he had thought of creating a group or possibly his own village. Giving a nod to Tsunade, she carried on. "Gurren is basically in the same boat. She has a unique bloodline called the Shoten and she knows you're capable of using this element. She also feels the same way as Tayuya." Naruto thought about her for a moment. If it was true and she could use that element, she would be extremely helpful with working with him. While he could use the jutsus for it, he never had the full capabilities of it, and partnering up with someone who does, well, the possibilities were endless. Naruto gave a nod and said, "I'll see them tomorrow. For now I need some rest." "What cells are they in?" Tsunade gave a nod and wrote the cell numbers down before handing it to him, which he pocketed. "Thanks, but for now I need sleep," he said as he stood up. Before he could get to the door though, Tsunade stopped him. "Naruto." Naruto turned around to see the smiling face of Tsunade. "I'm proud of the man you have become. Your parents would be proud." Naruto smiled at her gratefully. That comment by Sasuke had cut deep, where he honestly wondered if they would be ashamed of him or not. "Thank you, Tsunade. That means a lot," he said with a smile before he left. Just another busy for Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. The next day, Orochimaru's base. In a small dark room where candle lights were hung all the walls to give a creepy glow to the room, was a single bed across the door. Sat in the bed was Orochimaru, looking like shit. It had been a day since they got the defeated and retreated, and Sasuke wasn't happy about that. Then again, neither was Orochimaru. He was currently in pain because of his transference jutsu was running low, as it has a 3-year limit. Every few minutes he coughs up blood, knowing it was only going to get worse. Stood next to him was his right-hand man Yakushi Kabuto. "This is the limit. If I don't administer a rank 10 medicine your body," he stopped as Orochimaru started heaving. "I'll go get the other medicine, please, a little while." With that he left the room and shut the door. Kabuto started walking down the hallway when he heard Orochimaru. "Cuckoo. Kuhahahahaha." Back in the room, Orochimaru stopped laughing as he started coughing up blood. Looking up as he heard something, he saw a sword coated in lightning stab through the wall at an alarming rate. Orochimaru crossed his arms to stop the blade where it stabbed his summoning tattoos on his forearm, forcing him back a bit, coughing up more blood. Orochimaru looked at and frowned a bit. "This chakra composition is, but I've never seen this kind of shape manipulation before." Single quote. Still frowning, he looked up with his menacing slit eyes and whispered, "Who is it?" to himself. It was then scratches started to appear on the door before it literally blew off. None other than Uchiha Sasuke was stood in the doorway with his sword in his right hand slung over his shoulder while he held his left hand out with lightning coming from it, the same one that struck Orochimaru. Ever since the battle with Naruto and showing his true abilities, he had decided it was time to end his apprenticeship under Orochimaru and finally take action to go after his brother after all this time. Orochimaru grinned. Just as I thought, it's come down to this. Sasuke kept his uncaring mask up before speaking. There's nothing left for me to learn from you. Opening his eyes wider, the fully matured Sharingan appeared within his eyes, blazing with fury. It appears even you will become a stepping stone to my goal. Sasuke then walks forward, causing the blade that was stabbing Orochimaru to dig further. However, Orochimaru moved his arms to the side so that the blade hit wall behind him instead. Orochimaru, you're weaker than me. That was proven in my fight against Naruto. Sasuke said with the curse mark moving across the left side of his face. There's no need for me to give you my body anymore. Such big talk for a little Uchiha chick. Growled the snake Sannin. Sasuke smirked. Hey, if I wasn't a little chick you wouldn't have been able to get me right. You couldn't get Itachi, so you settled for the little chick that was me, right? He said, gazing into his eyes with his Sharingan spinning. Isn't that right? The genius that was lauded as one of the Sannin, but you were only a genius to the norm of society, you couldn't surpass the Uchiha name or even come close. No matter how much a genius one is, in front of the Uchiha name, they're just ordinary people. You want to get closer to the Uchiha's powers so badly you immense your body with medicine and taking over other bodies. Your actions, from me, who bears this name, it looks ridiculous. Plus I don't like your methods. What's your purpose? Sasuke taunted. However, he wasn't finished. To unravel the logic of this world or whatever, you've continued to play around with people like toys for such a stupid and selfish reason. You make me sick. Sasuke yelled as he pushed his lightning sword further, and jumped at Orochimaru with his other sword in his right hand, coming down at a stab. As the sword got closer to his head, Orochimaru opened his mouth wide and a big white scale creature shot out. Seeing the body go limp, Sasuke turned around to face with a snake. So a white-scaled snake, that was your true identity. In front of Sasuke was a snake big enough to take up the while room while curled that had scales as big a head covering it. Its head was practically Orochimaru with a long face and spiky black hair opposed to his long hair. You continued your experiments, so that you could move from body to body, and the end result is that appearance. Orochimaru glared at Sasuke before diving for him. Now, Sasuke-kun, your body, give it to me. As he came upon him, Sasuke jumped over. However, he only got halfway before two white snakes came from under scales and dove at him. Sasuke spun in midair, sword held out and sliced at the snakes. Coming to a landing, he slid across the floor as the snakes fell to bits. Orochimaru turned around to face him and yelled. Shah! A dozen snakes came out of Orochimaru and headed for Sasuke. However, he just sheathed his sword on his back before he pulled both arms out of his sleeves, allowing the top to dangle from his waist. As the snakes neared, Sasuke activated his cursed seal, fully gaining gray skin with a black four-pointed star in his forehead near the middle of his eyes, while his hair grew like Uchiha Madara except white. Simply put, for a snake that crawls around on the ground to dream on flying is just impossible, and you still wanted to do it. So you targeted a little chick inside a nest and got targeted in return. As the snakes wrapped themselves around Sasuke, they all of a sudden were ripped off and cut off, showing Sasuke with his bone-like wings stretched out. Now, I'm going to fly high into the sky, like the eye of the hawk. Orochimaru shot at Sasuke while screaming. Sasuke. While he had a thought back to a conversation with Sarutobi Hiruzen. Flashback. Orochimaru was currently knelt down at a couple graves as Hiruzen stood behind him. It was then that Orochimaru saw something on the ground. Reaching for it, he picked it up. What is this? He asked. Ooh, that's the skin of a white snake. Must have been hard to find. The god of shinobi said. Orochimaru looked puzzled. I've never seen anything like this. He stated. Sarutobi smiled down at him. Fufu, To be honest, same with me. That's something very rare that you don't get very to see often. Why is it white? No one really knows, no one even thinks about that. For a long time now, the white snake has always been a sign of good fortune and rebirth. Good fortune and rebirth, he trailed off as he looked down sadly. The fact that you found it here at this grave might be some sign, maybe your parents have been reincarnated somewhere, so that they can meet a grown-up like you. When will that be? Sarutobi sighed sadly. That I don't know. Orochimaru looked down at the skin and smiled, no one at the time knowing he would become a monster. End of flashback. Back in the present now, Uchiha Sasuke in his curse-sealed form stood over the monstrosity known as Orochimaru, who was lifeless on ground in 3 separate pieces with blood pooling out of its head. Sasuke let his seal revert him to normal while saying, "So this is the end, how disappointing." It was then Sasuke felt some pain and keeled over slightly just in time for Orochimaru's head to come up. "It's starting to kick in, I see. The body fluids from this giant white snake vaporize when exposed to air. It's a numbing poison, I cannot be destroyed, you can't kill me with your insignificant jutsus." Opening his maw wide, he dove at Sasuke. "Cuckoo, now, I'll take you." Sasuke's Sharingan looked in Orochimaru's slit eyes when everything then turned dark and hazy. Looking around, Sasuke saw he was in an area of pitch black. What is this place? A form started bubbling next to him, taking shape. This is a separate dimension inside of me, it's where we'll hold the ritual for transmigration. The form started showing Orochimaru's left side of his face. Let's start. Snakes started tangling around Sasuke as faces were revealed around, some showing women, others showing men, previous containers. Sasuke looked at Orochimaru dead in the eye while Orochimaru screamed, "Cuckoo! Those eyes will finally be mine." Lunging forward for Sasuke. With Kabuto. Kabuto was currently in a lab room filled with jars of specimens. In front of him he was currently making the medicine, completely oblivious to what was actually happening. Looks like this medicine won't work anymore. Tomorrow, or even today, we'll have to do the transmigration ritual, though I can imagine Sasuke-kun being agreeable and saying, yes. He trailed off, turning around to walk away. Opening the door, he walked out thinking, well, even Sasuke-kun wouldn't be able to withstand that ritual. Yet he couldn't get the funny feeling out of his stomach. He soon came upon Orochimaru's room where blood was leaking out of it. Sliding up to the wall beside the door, he peeked in to look just to Sasuke standing in the middle of a big white scaled snake. What is Sasuke-kun doing here? Looking at the snake, he thought, that's the skin of the giant white snake. That means the ritual is already over. Sasuke turned his head to see Kabuto walk in. Kabuto. Sasuke simply walked past him but didn't get far as Kabuto asked, right now, which one are you? Sasuke turned to look at him bored and asked back, who do you think? Sasuke used his Sharingan on Kabuto to take him to the ritual grounds, leaving Kabuto confused. This is where the transmigration ritual. Looking across the plain, he saw Sasuke and Orochimaru covered in a thick substance staring at each other. Hand-like appendages came off of Orochimaru, heading for Sasuke only for him to release his curse mark, overpowering Orochimaru's. Orochimaru screamed in agony. Impossible, this is a separate dimension I created. This isn't possible, this can't be possible. This is my Orochimaru. In front of these eyes all your jutsus are. You should know by now, Sasuke interrupted. Kabuto looked on in shock. His will is eroding the space. This can't be happening. I'm the immortal Orochimaru. I can't die like this. I'm the one to reveal this world. The one to hold the key to everything. He yelled in agony. Then there was nothing as they returned back to the real world. Orochimaru-sama has died, Kabuto said in shock. No, this is like. Sasuke finished off for him, smiling. I took him over. With that he walked off, leaving a heavily sweating Kabuto. Sasuke ended up in a room where there was a giant tube full of water. Pulling his sword out, a voice spoke out. So it was you after all. Then that means you defeated the snake bastard. Sasuke smirked. Yeah, and I'll let you out of here. he said as he lashed out with sword, slicing the tube open, causing water to pour out. Sasuke looked where the water was only to see a man form from the water standing up. I'm finally out, thanks Sasuke. Sasuke looked at him before turning around slightly. Suigetsu, you're first, come with me. Me first, then the others? He inquired. Two others, I'll take Jugo from the northern hideout and Karen from the southern hideout. He explained. Really? What? Suigetsu looked up fully formed and said. Nothing. Just don't like him, just thought, we won't be able to get along, hey, he grinned showing his shark-like teeth. There's no need to get along especially well, but together. Of course, you did save me after all, if you say work together I don't mind but, you're crazy for choosing them Sasuke. Shut your yapping, put your clothes on we're going. Ha ha. Such high and mighty words, Suigetsu then appeared behind Sasuke hand like a gun at his head. Let's make our relationship clear, okay? Sasuke looked back at him uninterested. Just because you defeated Orochimaru, it doesn't make you superior to me, we were all after him, sooner or later someone was going to kill him. Suigetsu grinned. You were a favorite so you could stay by Orochimaru and weren't locked up. You just had more chances to kill him than the rest of us. So what? In this situation, I've got the upper hand. He then lifted his hand up and said. Just kidding, a joke, even in this situation, not even a regular heartbeat, so it wasn't luck, I'm relieved. I heard rumors about you being strong from way back, your team is the one that defeated my great senpai Momochi Zabuza, right? Sasuke looked at him not saying a word, not feeling like he needed to. I'll go with you, but before we get the other two, I want to stop by somewhere, that okay? Later, Sasuke and Suigetsu were currently standing in front of a bridge. Looking up, Sasuke read, the Great Naruto Bridge. Hey. Sasuke. It's nothing, let's go. They eventually came to the end of a field where Sasuke spoke up. Right here, Suigetsu. In front of them were two graves, one on the left with a cloth around it indicating Haku's grave and on the left had a sword behind it, Zabuza's Zanbeitu. Suigetsu went over to it and grabbed it. I'm going to take this, Zabuza senpai. He said as he took it out of the ground. He lifted it up full view and said. Heavy, so this is the Karigakur's demon Zabuza's beheading sword. Sasuke looked at him and asked. Can you use that with your strength? The swords of the seven swordsmen were passed down from generation to generation. I admired the seven and trained because of it. As long as I have this large sword, I wouldn't lose to even you, maybe. Plus, if we're going to include Jugo in the team, this sword will come in handy, I think. Suigetsu strapped the sword on his back but unced the hilt and placed it in his belt. Hey, said Sasuke smiling lightly. Well then, let's go to the closer one, Sasuke. Southern hideout. Guwa. Came the sound of someone being thrown to the floor. In a corridor underground stood a red-headed woman who was looking down at a man. I can't have you doing whatever you want because Orochimaru is dead. With that she turned around but stopped in her tracks before looking up. This chakra, it can't be. Sasuke and Suigetsu were currently walking across an ocean before Suigetsu turned to Sasuke and asked. Can I ask a question? What? Why are you fathering teammates? Sasuke looked over slightly. I have a goal, there is a better chance to achieve that goal as a small team. But, why me? From the time I got close to Orochimaru, I thought of this possibility and chose a powerful shinobi. Hey, but I think there's no reason to choose Karen, she unlike me is Orochimaru's subordinate. She's messed around with my body before, and I can't stand her attitude. Sasuke looked over before speaking. True, there's a lot of other strong shinobi that would be easier to handle, but she had a special power that no one else has. Well, I have to admit that's true. Later Sasuke and Suigetsu made it into the hideout where they walked past cells where people were practically dying from starvation or the like. One person noticed the Uchiha crest on Sasuke's back. That's Uchiha Sasuke. What's he doing here? Wait, if he's here without Orochimaru, then that rumor could be true. That's it. yelled an excited prisoner. He defeated Orochimaru, so he came to free us. However, another R prisoner didn't seem that optimistic. Stupid, there's no if that's true. Besides, Orochimaru can't be defeated. The duo carried along until they met a woman with red hair and glasses wearing very small shorts and a jacket that shone more skin than anything. So it really is you guys. Sasuke, if you're here by yourself, then the rumor must be true. Suigetsu, feeling ignored, spoke up. That's cold, I'm here too. Karen looked at Sasuke. So what are you doing here? Apparently, Sasuke wants to talk to you. Instead of standing around talking, can you show us to a room? It's been a while since I've walked, so I'm beat. Karen looked at him with a frown. Ha! Sasuke chose that moment to talk. Karen comes with us, we need you. Huh, she yelled wide-eyed. Why the hell should I? I've been put in charge of this place. 5 minutes later they were sat in a room on a couch. Orochimaru's dead. What about all the people we're detaining? Sasuke looked over at Suigetsu. Suigetsu, go and release everyone. Karen looked shocked. What? Suigetsu just grinned. Ha! Still talking like you're the boss. He said, getting up. However, Karen wouldn't have it. Don't you dare do it. Sasuke looked at Karen and spoke. Now there'll be no need for a guard. What are you going to do? Karen looked as Suigetsu opened the door and yelled. No way. Besides, I have no obligation to go with you. Sasuke sighed and said, I guess that's it. If you're against it that much, I'll have to find someone else. With Suigetsu. I see. So he defeated Orochimaru. Yeah, that's right, said Suigetsu. So what's going to happen to us? You're free, of course. He said simply. Really? Yep. Just like me. He grinned. I'll open the lock now. However, there's one thing I want to ask you guys. What? Please tell us what it is. The one who defeated Orochimaru and freed us is Sasuke. Once you're outside, spread that a man will bring us peace and stability to this world has appeared, Cuckoo. Sasuke and Karen. Karen moved back to the door and locked it so that Suigetsu can't get back in, and looked at Sasuke with a lustful eye. I'll go. In a lust-filled voice. Sasuke quirked an eyebrow at her response, a bit confused at how she's acting. It was then that Karen walked over to him and put down her glasses and scooted closer to him and said, If you insist that much, I'll go with you. She said in sultry-filled voice. What are you saying? You changed your mind quickly, Sasuke said, suspicion clearly in his voice. When I think about it, I'm getting bored of being on guard duty. She said, leaning closer to Sasuke. She then heard the door rattling, clearly Suigetsu trying to get in. Looking back at Sasuke, she moved closer, causing him to put an arm up. You, don't get too close. Completely ignoring him, she spoke up. Hey, why don't we make it just the two of us? We don't need Suigetsu. That thing, she didn't get to finish as the door and walls were cut down in seconds. Suigetsu stood at the door, leaning his right arm on his sword while his left arm was bulged to at least 3 times as big. Come on Sasuke, let's go. She said he won't. She just said she'll come. Informed Sasuke. However, Karen didn't accept so easy. Who said I'll come? I'm just going the same way. She screeched while pointing a finger at Suigetsu. Oh, well then isn't that convenient then? Well, let's go partway together then. Karen pushed her glasses up and said. Just partway. Suigetsu deflated his arm to normal and asked. Then, next is Jugo, right? What? Did you say Jugo? You're going to include that guy in the team. You're only partway with us, so it doesn't concern you, does it? No. It doesn't concern me. So what? Are you peacocking a fight? Northern hideout. In a dark cell there was a man with orange spiky hair in the corner of the room with a massive iron ball chained to him. No. Has to be a woman has to better. No wait. Has to be a guy should be better. No, should be a woman. No, a guy instead of. Sasuke and company. We're walking again. I'm already beat, complained Suigetsu. Hey, you're going to the north hideout. It's like that. We'll get killed the second we get there. Karen commented. I only know about it from the maps, is it that bad? Asked Suigetsu. The North hideout isn't just a regular hideout. She paused, both males looked at her. That place is a human experiment lab, and the uncontrollable monsters that are born are kept locked up. A little while later they were further to where they needed to be, however Suigetsu was still complaining. Hey, aren't you tired? Why don't we rest a little bit? He asked while drinking water. Sasuke and Karen looked back to see Suigetsu sat down on a rock. You're pathetic, we still have a long way to go until we reach the hideout. Where we're headed should be different than yours, no need to worry about me, just leave. Well, I just remember I have something left at the hideout, so I'm going there first. Sasuke, getting annoyed, spoke. Stop arguing now, come on. 2 hours later they were finally at the hideout. Once they got there they noticed a riot had started thanks to the news of Orochimaru, so without hesitation Sasuke killed anyone who attacked him while searching for Jugo. Later, in front of the trio was a horde of cursed seal victims in their second stage forms. However, instead of being like Sasuke and having it under control, these were nothing more than mindless beasts. Karen looked around in shock. All the guards are dead, a complete prison breakout. Suigetsu frowned, also looking around. There's no way to tell which one is Jugo like that, Sasuke. Sasuke sighed, turning to Karen. Karen, is Jugo amongst these guys? Just shut. Wait a minute. She growled. She closed her eyes to look for the chakra source that was Jugo. Hey, he's not in the group. So we can cut them down, right? Suigetsu asked, hopeful. Sasuke kept his mask of indifference up as he stared at the horde. Yes, they're mindful beasts right now. Hey, and to think you're from Konoha. Suigetsu exclaimed, happy at what he's going to do. People change, he said as he ran forward and jumped high in the air and shouted. Kaden. Hosenka no Jutsu. Sasuke blew out multiple balls of fire at 10 of the creatures, leaving about 36 left. Suigetsu ran up the left side and started cleaving his way through, cutting limbs, heads, hell, even people in half. He had just killed 7 before he jumped up and shouted out his own jutsu. Suiden. Suiryuden no Jutsu. Out of the air came a fearsome dragon which shot out at the enemies, taking out 6 while soaking the rest, perfect for Sasuke to clean up. Sasuke flipped in midair and landed on the ground. Slamming his hand on the ground, he shouted. Ikazuchi Hakai. Lightning surged through the ground, breaking it apart, heading straight for the rest of the horde. Once it touched the remaining water on the ground, it immediately blew the entire area up, taking out the remaining enemies. Suigetsu appeared next to Sasuke and appreciated their work. We do good work, don't ya think? Sasuke just smirked and walked on, with Karen trailing behind looking at the smoking corpses, while Suigetsu followed. With Jugo. Jugo was still sat in the corner but now was looking at the door, sensing people approaching. A woman, if a woman comes in here I'll kill. Sasuke and company. Sasuke and Suigetsu were currently cutting down more cursed sealed victims as they walked down the corridors, which seemed to be filled with them. Blood covered the walls already from previous fights that had already taken place. Sasuke plucked his sword out of an enemy's gut as it reverted back to a human person. Hey, you strong, cough. And just like that, one more down. Karen followed behind, not a care in the world as she followed Jugo's chakra signature. Walking into a room close to where Sasuke was, she emerged a few minutes later. The keys. I found them. She chirped happily as she held up a couple dozen keys attached to a ring. They soon came upon a crossroads of different routes. Suigetsu turned to Karen. Karen, can you tell us which way? She looked at him in annoyance before saying. TCH, since when did you become leader? Just tell us which way. He growled out. She points down the left way. That way. Following her command, Suigetsu and Sasuke walked down it. However, Sasuke didn't get far as Karen grabbed him and pulled him the other. Karen, what are you doing? It's this way, she said simply. Sasuke raised an eyebrow at her. Why did you lie? Suigetsu's going the wrong way. Karen snorted and walked on. He's annoying. I don't like him. Let's go. she said, pulling away only for Sasuke to realize her hold. Let go, I can walk myself. This feels like Team 7 all over again, he thought with a sigh. With Suigetsu carried on down the corridor completely oblivious to what was going on. The cursed deal changes the body into something monstrous. Sasuke, do you also become like that when you use it? Too, he asked only to receive no reply. Looking slightly behind him, he said. Are you even listening to me? Only to realize he had been tricked. That bitch, he growled out, walking back the way he came. Sasuke and Karen now stood outside a heavily bolted up door which seemed to be impenetrable. Here? Asked Sasuke, curiosity taking over as he saw chains being wrapped around the door. Yeah, Jugo's inside here, Karen informed. Karen set to unlocking the door with the multiple keys she had. As she went up, grabbed the handle. Sasuke stopped her by putting his arm in front of her. I'll go in first. Karen, take a step back. Meanwhile, Jugo was still rambling inside. No, if it's a guy, I'll kill him. Yeah, a guy comes in, all him. Looking over at the door, he saw it open slightly and a foot at the opening. It was then he saw half of Sasuke's face before he shot up with the curse mark taking over. Bingo. I'll kill. He screamed hysterically like a crazed person. He then rushed Sasuke full speed, still grinning like a madman. Sasuke pulled his sword halfway out. If it's sheath, as Karen shouted. He's coming. While Sasuke kept a stoic face while bending slight to face Jugo. Suigetsu 5 minutes earlier. Suigetsu had finally found himself back in the room of now dead people littered around. Oh, looks like I've come back, then it must be on the right then. As he went to continue, a voice broke him out of his thoughts. What did you all come here for? Looking back, he saw a barely alive man looking up at him. We came to get Jugo from this place. We want to make him part of our team. A man seemed to find it amusing as he chuckled. Kukuku, you guys, do you know what you're trying to do? Guh. Suigetsu looked at him questionably, wondering where he was going with it. If you let that guy out in the world. Suigetsu cut him off there. I agree, but I'll make him listen, by force if necessary. The man thought that was even more amusing. Kukuku, though you're strong with your powers. Suigetsu get pissed off stamped on the man's stomach. Gwa. He man gargled out. Kuku, you should all get killed by Jugo. Suigetsu reached up for his sword. Just one person wouldn't matter. As he was going to kill the man, there was an explosion close by. Sasuke and Karen. Jugo now had his transformed fist buried in the dust. Karen was on the floor coughing from the dust and rocks that came out of the wall, and Sasuke was nowhere to be seen. Sasuke! Screamed Karen while Jugo was laughing like a madman. Gahahahahaha. Jugo's left arm that was buried in the wall now had spikes going along it, much like a Kagaya's bloodline. There's more. As he said that, a slit appeared in his elbow where a tube-like shape came out, pushing chakra into it. There was another massive explosion. Sasuke's chakra, thought Karen worriedly. It was then wind-like appendages came out of the rubble and gripped Jugo's now monstrous arms. Jugo jumped back with his ever-growing arm and looked in the hole to see Sasuke's right side transformed with a massive wind coming out of his back. Another one of my copies. I have to admit, you're something to be able to achieve a partial change. You're good at controlling the cursed seal. Sasuke looked up and could see the right side of his face being covered by the seal and his eye now black with a yellow pupil. I have no intention of fighting, I just want to talk with you, Jugo. Jugo just seemed to go even more crazed. You're strong. The first copy of this caliber since Kimimaro. With that dove forward arm ed back, instead of hitting Sasuke came in contact with a giant sword. Suigetsu and Jugo bounced back from each other from the force of the blow. Sasuke, I want to take this guy. And Karen, you'll get it later. TCH. Stop, Suigetsu, we didn't come here to fight. I'll talk to him, Sasuke said, reverting back. Suigetsu just lifted his sword. He isn't someone who'll listen when you talk, just have to take him by force. That's it. You're Suigetsu. I remember now. Jugo screamed W with a crazy grin on his face as he swung his fist at Suigetsu, who reciprocated with his weapon, rebounding off one another again. Suigetsu came back around with a mighty swing only for Jugo to duck out of the way. Both of you stop, Sasuke ordered. Meanwhile Karen had her own thoughts. Good, both of them can die. Both fighters charged aim only for Sasuke to appear I between where two giant snakes came out of his sleeves and had wrapped around the constricting them. You two, do you want me to kill you? He asked with his Sharingan now in his eyes. Both fighters looked at Sasuke a bit fearful at how fast he moved. Looking down they saw the snakes retreating back into his sleeves. Right there. That was real murderous intent, thought Suigetsu, while Karen seemed more turned on than anything. I can't take it, Sasuke. Jugo's curse mark receded back, making him look human again before he stared, looking around frantically, trying to see where he was, and seeing his room he ran straight for his, pulling the ball on chain with him screaming all the way. Ah! Jugo got in his room, slammed the door and crouched while holding his head. Hurry up and lock the door. He yelled through the door. On the other side Sasuke walked closer. Jugo, I just came to take you of here. Come with me. Suigetsu looked at the door curiously. He's too scared. No, that's not it, responded Karen while Sasuke looked on waiting for an answer. Jugo on the other side gripped his head harder. I don't want to kill any more OPELE. I don't want to go outside, just leave me be. What's that? Such a split personality. Karen explained. I told you, Jugo is driven with intent to kill that he can't do anything about, he can't control himself. He really doesn't want to kill. I don't know when I'll want to kill another person, just give me the key quickly. Suigetsu frowned. Just as I thought, Sasuke, Jugo isn't going to cooperate. There's no way I'll be able to walk alongside this guy, none at all. What the hell do you guys want? Just leave me alone. Sasuke stepped forward. Orochimaru has crumbled, and so will this base. If you stay here, it'll be the end for you. I don't care. I don't want to kill another person ever again. Jugo spoke in a calmer voice. Calm down, I'll be your prison, so to speak. I can stop you, explained Sasuke to Jugo. Jugo though wasn't convinced. What the hell can you do? The only person who can stop me is Kimimaro. If Kimimaro isn't here then I'm not coming out. Suigetsu raised a brow at that. Kimimaro, the Kagayas. Karen decided to explain. Ah, Jugo along with Kimimaro were Orochimaru's favorite test subjects. He was especially fond of them, so they were always kept together. He was probably the only person in this place that would willingly submit to us. Kimimaro was strong. Well, what I'm trying to say is that he was an especially valuable test subject, because he was the only one who could stop Jugo's wild rampages. But that guy, isn't he? Suigetsu trailed off. Sasuke spoke again. Jugo, Kimimaro died for me, he's no longer alive. Jugo seemed surprised for a moment before he spoke. He died for you? Then, you are Uchiha Sasuke? He asked cautiously. Sasuke nodded even though he couldn't see him. Yeah. Flashback. Uchiha Sasuke, a younger Jugo said to Kimimaro. Why are they making you go out and get him? Up until now that wa. Uchiha Sasuke. He is the man who will become my replacement as Orochimaru's vessel. My goal is to bring him back. Is that guy really worth it? Jugo questioned, not wanting to leave his only friend. Him and I are the only suitable vessels for Orochimaru, there aren't any other. He will be my revived existence. I am willing to die to bring him back. I thank you, Jugo. After all, my abilities became more powerful thanks to your power. Well then, Jugo, I'll be back. End of flashback. Jugo opened the door to see Sasuke stood there. So that's what you meant, Kimimaro. Now they all stood outside the base on the barren field. Suigetsu, Karen and Jugo stood in a line while Sasuke stood in front of them. Here is where my team will become complete. Now, I'll tell you my motive. All three stood at attention at that. My motive is to kill Uchiha Itachi of the Akatsuki. To that end, I want your power. I figured as much, mumbled Suigetsu. However, Karen, Sasuke said, getting her attention. You already said that you had other plans, so what are you going to do? Karen looked away slightly and said, Why, yes, I was thinking about it and I'm not really in a rush. Karen, be honest, Suigetsu spoke up. Don't you just want to be at Sasuke's side? Karen spluttered for a second before yelling. That's my reason. Who would dare say such a thing? Huh. Suigetsu just grinned toothily, pleased with her reaction. See. Bullseye. Your voice is cracking. Well, I really do know, in the past with Sasuke you. Quote exclamation mark quote. Screeched Karen as she punched him only for his head to turn to water and reform. TS's. Karen hissed, gritting her teeth together. Sasuke, being the mediator, spoke up. Suigetsu, stop agitation her. I do believe I said you'll have to started working together, didn't I? He questioned. Yeah, I got it. My bad, Karen. Anyway, I guess I'll stick around with you, Sasuke, from here onwards. One of Kurigakure's 7 swordsmen, his name is Hoshigaki Kisame and he's partnered with Itachi. It's my goal to take his sword, Samahata, for myself. Karen snorted and muttered. Someone's compensation by collecting swords. Suigetsu warned Sasuke. Yeah, I know. Jugo, now that you're out, what are you going to do? Kimimaro said that Sasuke would be the revival of his existence. He sacrificed himself to protect you. I want to see how strong of a ninja you really are. Then it's decided. Konoha. Naruto's apartment. Same time as Orochimaru's death. Kagura had been gone for a day now and was on her way to Kiri. He didn't have to worry about her as he knew she could take care of herself, and if she was in trouble she still had one of his kunai to teleport him there. Today he was going to speak to Gurren and to Yuya, and if they accept to join him he would send them to Kiri to get some training themselves. Naruto slowly opened his eyes only to be hit by the blinding light that came through the window, which seemed to magnify it just for the sole purpose of pissing him off. Opening his eyes fully, he was about to move when he felt a weight on his left arm. Looking over, he seen a familiar blob of blue hair on his chest, using it as a pillow. Looking at her face, he saw the familiar amber eyes that he had fell in love with. She also had a small lip piercing. She also wore a large light blue paper flower in her hair that she always had on whenever he saw her. He sighed. He remembered how she appeared in his room last night, tired beyond belief. Working with your enemy was never a good thing, and something he told her many times, but she always said it was what she had to do if she wanted to help him. Shaking his head, he nudged her slightly, waking her up. The blue-haired woman rubbed her eyes tiredly and stretched as she sat up, unintentionally sticking her chest out, which for him was a bit too much for his hormones to handle. You can't keep coming here whenever you want, he said to her in a worried tone, causing her to sigh. She looked down at him as he stared up at her with worry. He doesn't control me. I can do whatever I want. Sitting up, he put an arm around her. Yes, you can, but what will he do if he finds out you're sleeping with his enemy, the person he is trying to kill? Naruto asked, a bit more forceful this time, and she understood. Her ex-friend would kill her if he found out. Settling into his side, she sighed. I know, okay, but I just want to stay here. It's getting too much now. He says he wants peace and yet he will just kill anyone who gets in his way, she said as she turned her head slightly and kissed his shoulder softly. Naruto sighed and leant his head on hers. I know, but you won't have to pretend much longer. He lifted her head up and kissed her lightly on her ruby lips, causing her to slightly. What's Nagato up to? He asked her as they stopped kissing. Well, he has captured all the Jinchuriki except for you and the Hachibi. However, I think he might do something soon, something dangerous, she said, a little afraid of what Nagato might do to Naruto. Hey, you're not afraid for me, are you? You know I can take care of myself, he said, although it didn't make her feel at ease. Looking up with a hardened look, she said, how can you act so calm, huh? Do you know what he is truly capable? He will kill your friends to get to you. He'll kill you, she said sharply as tears fell from her eyes at the thought of Naruto being killed struck her heart. Despite that the fact that she grew up with Nagato, over the years he had been driven more and more into the power game, where he will kill if he doesn't get what he wants. She was the one who still wanted peace for the world, but by doing everything the right way, not Nagato's way. Now though she had found her salvation in the arms of Naruto, despite her cold exterior she was always soft on the inside. The fact that she fell in love with the silver-haired man still dumbfounded her, as she never thought she could love again since Yahiko. Theirs was also something about Naruto that made her be reminded of Yahiko. Naruto also loved Konan dearly. Of course he loved Kagura as well, but he always did have a big heart. In fact he had feelings for others as well, and what was better was that they didn't mind, so he couldn't get guilty. Well, he was technically under the Clan Restoration Act. Naruto knew all about her past and the vile actions of some people on the council. He was always afraid of what would happen should Nagato find out the truth of being betrayed by his partner. Konan, he said, getting her attention. If you want, you don't have to go back to him, stay here. He said with a little hope, however she shook her head. I can't, I know I'm a bit scared, but I have to carry on spying on him. She then placed her hands against his bare chest in a loving motion. I knew the dangers of this when I offered this idea to you, I understood the consequences. She then moved to sit on his lap and kissed him briefly. Naruto sighed. He hated putting her in this position all the time. Just be safe. He paused to kiss her neckline, causing her in pleasure. Okay, I won't know what to do if I lost you. She kissed him passionately at that and with enough force to knock him to his back as she straddled him at the same time. Sitting up still on his crotch slightly, she said, I promise. Does Jiraiya-sensei know of me and Nagato? She asked as she was still a secret to everyone. No, there's too many variables around. Konoha walls cannot be trusted with information about you or Nagato. Good knows what would happen if Danzo found out about you. He explained, and Konan knew what he meant. There were too many enemies in and outside the village to consider. What's Madara doing now? Konan sighed. Right now, he's just made himself known as Toby to the rest of the members. I also think he may order me and Nagato to attack Konoha. She said solemnly. Let them come. Nagato won't make it out alive. Despite the fact that her childhood friend would possibly get killed, she didn't really care. He was becoming a monster and using their dead friend as a body to possess. In some way she saw him dying as a second chance for him to live a better life in the afterlife. I know you've gotten strong with your Rinnegan, but Nagato's had years to master his. I'm afraid that he'll do something you don't expect, and Naruto pulled her down to a kiss to shut her up as she was going to ramble. Konan, I will not die, okay? I have too much to live for now, don't I? He asked rhetorically as Konan smirked idly, while grinding against him, causing him to go hard. If I didn't know any better, I'd say you were after something. Naruto said as he groped Konan's, causing her to. Are you sure you don't have to go? I mean, you could move here right now and we never leave. He whispered in her ear, causing a slight shiver to go down her ear. As much as I would love to. She paused as she felt something poke her womanhood, making her wet. Have all the time with you. I have to go so Nagato doesn't suspect anything. Causing Naruto to sigh and drop back. Be safe, okay? He asked her as he hugged her and got one more kiss from her before she got up and dressed in her Akatsuki outfit. Don't forget, any trouble, throw the kunai. He reminded her and got a nod from the woman before she disappeared in a flutter of paper butterflies. Naruto sighed. Maybe he worried too much about the blue-haired woman, but he loved her. How could he not? Seriously, I mean, the woman was betraying someone who could very well be stronger than him and her. And if Madara ever found out, hell, he didn't want to know. Naruto was broken from his thoughts when he heard a knock on the door. Getting up, he left his bedroom in just his boxers and opened his door to see Kakashi standing there. Kakashi looked at Naruto and for some reason felt pride swell up in him but let it go. Tsunade-sama wanted to see you ASAP, apparently something important happened. He said before he left via Shunshin. Naruto sighed and shut the door before he left to go change in his usual attire, knowing something important was going to happen. Hokage's office. Naruto soon entered the office to see Tsunade, Jiraiya, Kakashi, Kurenai, Guy, Yamato, Sakura, Kiba, Hinata, Shino, Rock Lee, Ten, Neji, Ino, Choji, Shikamaru and Sai, the apparent new member of Team 7 when he was away. He had been told about Sai and informed of who his master was, but noticed he wasn't following Danzo 100% as he had been coming into his human emotions now. Tsunade looked up at Naruto and spoke. Now that we're all here, Jiraiya has some information to share. So what's the information you wanted to talk to us about? Asked Kakashi. Tsunade Haim called you all here because it kind of affects you all. Jiraiya said, allowing everyone to understand. There has been information which has been circling in the most places throughout the region, it's about that. Information? Inquired Neji. What is it? Asked Ino. My old teammate Orochimaru is dead, it appears Uchiha Sasuke killed him. At the mention of his name some smiled, the Jonins got grim looks and Naruto scowled and clenched his fists at something that didn't go unnoticed. Is it true? Asked Sakura, which almost sounded like a whisper. There's no mistaking it, I heard from a reliable source. Jiraiya said. So he's coming back to Konoha? Asked Ino. At that Naruto scoffed, not believing the foolishness of them. Something you want to say, Naruto? Asked Tsunade with a raised eyebrow. Naruto looked at her with a bored stare. Well, first off, Sasuke wouldn't come back here until Itachi is dead and gone, something that will never happen. Secondly, how do we know Orochimaru hasn't taken over Sasuke's body and spread a rumor to cover his tracks? Before Tsunade and Jiraiya could speak, Sakura turned on Naruto. How can you say Sasuke won't come back? Of course he will. Naruto looked at her with a raised brow. You honestly believe that? Foolish little girl. Sasuke will never consider even stepping foot here if he knows Itachi is still alive, and as far as I'm concerned, Itachi is too strong for him. Sasuke would kill any of us if it meant he would get stronger. How can you say that? Sasuke-kun would never do that. Sakura argued. Naruto looked at her as if she was crazy. He wouldn't do that, huh? Then what's this? Moving his coat slightly over, everyone could see a large scar next to his heart. See this? This is what your precious Sasuke-kun done trying to achieve more. If it wasn't for the Kyuubi and my Rasengan knocking him off course, I wouldn't be here right now. He said, shocking them all, none realizing how close Naruto came to dying. Naruto wasn't done though. No, better yet, what about the day before, huh? You know, the Ing invasion, when we were having a fight to the death? He asked rhetorically. Trying to get rid of the awkward silence, Kiba spoke. Kyuubi isn't too bad then, he joked, causing some chuckles from Naruto and others. What do you need from a Tsunade-sama? Asked Guy in serious mode. I am going to send 2 teams out after him. They will be Kakashi leading Naruto, Sakura and Sai. The other will be Yamato leading Shino, Hinata and Kiba. The rest of you will be needed in case of backup. Shikamaru looked at Naruto and then Tsunade and spoke. Wouldn't it be best if we sent more? Why's that? She asked back. Because we don't know what Sasuke has been up to or if he has a team, and then there's Akatsuki. I'll have a backup squad ready in case of emergency. We need all shinobi here at the moment. With Akatsuki more active, they may make a frontal attack. Besides, Naruto's jutsus are so destructive, we'll know when you're in danger. She half joked. Naruto grinned back at her. At least I won't strain my back from fighting, he said, causing her to get a tick mark. Tsunade took deep breaths before speaking again. I want you all at the front gate in 2 hours, so prepare for your mission. You're all dismissed, except you, Naruto. Tsunade spoke. Naruto, you're going to want to sit down, we need to talk. Doing what she said, Naruto sat down and listened to what Tsunade and Jiraiya had to say. Okay, so what's this about? Asked Naruto, curious. Jiraiya sighed. The truth about the Uchiha massacre and Itachi. Itachi and Kisame were currently stood on a cliffside looking up as the sky darkened. Looks it's about to rain, trailed Kisame. Itachi felt rain hit him before he spoke. It looks more like a storm. Let's hide ourselves from the rain somewhere. It's getting cold, suggested Kisame. Yeah, mumbled Itachi. Kisame walked over to a body and stabbed Samahata next to it. We'll probably get in touch with the leader soon, he said, lifting the body of an old man up on it, or more specifically Roshi, the Jinchuriki of the four-tailed monkey. Itachi looked at him passively. It looks like he is dying. We should take care of this old man. You say that because you don't know him. He isn't a common Jinchuriki, you know. The Yonbi uses Yuden. You didn't fight him directly, and he was very tough to beat. Kisame said. Itachi shut his eyes and snorted. Kisame grinned. Well, I was the one who wanted to go alone. Should I half kill your target too? Don't say such things, Kisame. Naruto-kun has come a long way. We may not be able to defeat him together. Hopefully Pain can't. I'm a bit tired. The faster we catch it, the faster I can have my rest, said Kisame as they walked through the forest. Itachi looked over at him. No need to rush. Let's take a break for now. It will take some time anyways. I'm wondering, trailed Kisame. There are only a few left, right? The Kyuubi has been decided to be sealed last. Remember what our leader said, that because the sealing is so fragile it would break its balance. And since we have to bring the Jinchuriki back alive, don't think that finding them as quick as possible is the best solution. He asked Itachi, who sat down against a tree trunk. Itachi leaned back and shut his eyes. HMPF, I'm not worried. Deidara failed too. Being the last to be sealed is the same as being the last one caught, and Akatsuki has been too active lately. He paused as Kisame chucked Roshi on the floor. If we catch the Kyuubi Jinchuriki too fast, Konoha will have a stronger response than last time. Ha, you're right. They have so many contacts with other countries that their cooperation could slow us down. The best we can do is catch them up to the Hachibi, but that could lead to trouble. I see, your point makes sense. Good timing, said Itachi, smiling slightly with the Sharingan active. Both of them then appeared in an area stood around a lantern with the other members. Kisame spoke up to Pain. We just caught the Jinchuriki. We had to tie him down better so he wouldn't escape, so that's we are late. Very well, it looks like no one's missing. Konoha, you gotta be kidding me. Naruto said. He had just learned that the entire Uchiha massacre was ordered by the village elders and the Sandaime. Tsunade sighed. It was probably the worst way to go about stopping the Uchiha's plans. I'm afraid not, Gaki. Naruto sighed in frustration. So you're telling me that everything that has happened since then has been because of pathetic old people who don't even know how to fight? Is that what this village is turning into? Where all our lives and choices are made by people who can barely wipe the iron their own? He grounded out in frustration. Jiraiya chuckled at the wording, although he could see where Naruto was coming from. Just finding out all he knew was blown in his face. That's why we have you. Seeing his confusion, Naruto explained further. I know you don't believe in destiny or fate, but believe it or not, when Fukasaku-sama mentioned about you being the child of prophecy, he was telling the truth. While us old people have made many mistakes, the next generation learns from them and makes a better future. That's what you're here for, to help this village strive for a better future. Naruto snorted at the mistakes part. Mistakes. The Sandaime was the freaking epitome of the word, while I saw him as a grandfather figure. My respect for him as a Kage vanished a long time ago. For all we know, he has practically doomed this village, letting Orochimaru live only for him to continue his experiments and kill more people. Then he orders the execution of the Uchiha, even ones who had no part in it. He shook his head at the old man's stupidity, and the two Sannin hung their heads knowing he was right. Do you understand what Sasuke will do once he finds out? He would want the destruction of Konoha, confirmed Tsunade to those present. Naruto sighed once more. He was doing that too many times. You know, I'm half tempted to let him, he said, shocking the two as he gazed at the Hokage mountain. But it wouldn't be what my parents would want, or Itachi for that matter. Hearing him say that, they felt reassured. So why have you really told me the truth? Sasuke and company. We move as a four-man team from here outwards. From now on we call ourselves, Hubby. Konoha. There's an informant I have that you need to meet on the mission, said Jiraiya. Who? Team Hubby. Hubby has only one motive. Konoha and Team Hubby. Uchiha Itachi, said both Sasuke and Jiraiya at the same time, even though they don't know it. Konoha. Uchiha Itachi. Yes, confirmed Jiraiya. Why him? Asked Naruto. He's my insider on the Akatsuki. He has been feeding me information on the actions to let me get the heads up. He told me he needs to speak to you. Naruto quirked an eyebrow at that. What the hell could he want him for? Me. What for? Honestly, I don't know, but he mentioned something about his last chance for forgiveness. Naruto sighed. This was all too much to take in. So on the mission, do I look for him, or will he show himself? He'll likely appear in front of only you. Jiraiya informed. Akatsuki. By the way, speaking of it, I'd really like to start the sealing of the Yonbi Jinchuriki right now, Kisame said. Wait, aren't we missing the zombie bros? Kisame asked as he looked around, seeing two more extra spaces. They're dead, answered Pain in his monotone-like voice. Let me guess, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki and Hatake Kakashi? Questioned Kisame with a feral grin. Zetsu, who had been quiet, spoke up. Actually, Inara killed Hidan, the Namikaze boy killed Kakuzu, and Pain, there's something you should know about him too. He said, gaining Pain's interest while Conan secretly smirked. Pain was going to get a shock. What is it? Pain asked, interested. He has the Rinnegan, he said while Pain stood in shock at what he heard. It was impossible, there could only be one god. Are you sure? Positive. How many people can use Shinra Tensei so flawlessly? He also knows Mokuden Jutsu as well. He also has a Zanpakuto, in fact he has two. He warned while on the inside he was thinking. Pain sighed. This was getting him confused. I mean, how can someone else have the Rinnegan when he has it? And how the hell does he use the Mokuden? Does that mean he can? There were too many questions and no answers. Little did he know that the one with all the answers were standing close by, a certain blue-haired woman who was smirking on the inside at how worried of Naruto Pain was. Gah, when can this be over? I just wish this could be over and done with so I can see Naruto-kun. Conan thought, annoyed, and keeping up the cold facade was getting to her as she enjoyed being more of a person like how she is with Naruto. Wait a minute, there is more to say. Pain said emotionlessly. About what? It seems that someone else has been killed. Someone else? Asked Kisame, while Itachi looked interested for their leader to bring up someone's death. Orochimaru. He said, shocking those there. I mean, it isn't easy to kill a Sannin of all people. Kisame spoke up then after a couple minutes of silence. He left Akatsuki 10 years ago, does that mean we don't have to seek for him anymore? He said, hope in his voice. Well, those who did the job must be pretty strong. Who did it? Uchiha Sasuke. Itachi's eyes widened a fraction at that news, knowing he really is stronger, all the more better for him. I wish I could kill Orochimaru myself, said Deidara, who looked interested in the news. Wow, impressive. That's quite the brother you have, Itachi-san. Complimented Kisame. Zetsu, the Venus flytrap, made his presence known. Right now, he has gathered some companions, some ninjas who could become troublesome for us. You know them? Asked Kisame, wondering who we might have to kill should they be problem. You should know them too, Pain spoke. One of them is, of the Huzuki brothers of Kurigakure. Kisame perked up at hearing a name he hasn't heard in a long time. Suigetsu. It's been a while. There's also Jugo of the Tenpin, Itachi, Kisame, you should watch your backs, they'll surely be after you. Itachi made no movement to acknowledge his warning. Everyone else, try to remember what I told you about Uchiha Sasuke. If his team comes to learn too much about Itachi and Kisame, Akatsuki's plans could be blocked. Kisame, what kind of guy is that Suigetsu, asked Deidara. Kisame was silent for a moment before speaking up. 10 years ago, he was a nice-looking lad, always smiling, but because he was always tearing up arms and legs of his opponents, and because he was cutting their heads off, he was called a second, Devil Zabuza, a prodigy of murder. Deidara seemed to smile in the projection. They sound very interesting, Konoha. Man, just when I thought the mission would be easy. Naruto complained with some humor in his voice. Jiraiya smirked. When you're involved in a mission, it is never easy. He said, chuckling and getting some from Tsunade too. Tsunade spoke up, having not spoken in a while. Well, brat, you should go prepare. Good luck. Oh, and don't forget about that Gurren and Tayuya. Naruto gave a nod and got up and left, leaving Tsunade and Jiraiya to talk. Kurigakure. Mizukage's office. Kagura had arrived moments before after using her enhanced speed to reach Kiri quicker so that she would have more time to spend there. The only reason she really liked it there was because her and Mei got along quite well. Now though she was in the office, stood next to Mei, in front of them stood the new Kiri no Shinobugatana Nananan Shu. The main reason she was here was so that she could help them unlock their Zanpakutos and then guide them in training them, seeing as she was probably the second foremost expert on them besides Naruto that Mei is on friendly terms. Mei stepped forward to speak to her swordsman. Everyone, Kagura Ankai here. She paused as she indicated to Kagura, who smirked and waved. We'll be helping you 7 to unlock you Zanpakutos to gain their Shikai. As you already know, I have my own Zanpakuto, but I don't have the knowledge that Kagura has. If possible, she will also teach you some of the techniques that come with the Zanpakuto. Mei stopped talking while everyone gave nods of acknowledgement. Mei smiled and turned to Kagura. All right, I'll introduce you to everyone now. On your far left is Renji Abarai. She said, pointing to a young redhead who gave a nod. Renji had long red hair tied back into a ponytail with black tribal-like tattoos covering his upper body, going to his head as well. He was also wearing a strange outfit consisting of a white kimono-like type of night clothing, with pink floral patterns on it, and a dark gray sash tied around his waist, helping it to stay in place, with bandages underneath. He has a Zanpakuto on the left side of him which has a rectangular bronze hand guard with a jagged design to it and a red handle and sheath. Next we have Akaku Madarame. Mei said, indicating to a bald man who also gave a nod. Akaku is a bald man. He also has distinctive small red markings at the outer corner of his eyes. He wears black khakis and a white tank top, with a sleeveless trench coat over it showing off his bare arms. His Zanpakuto was also tied to his side, which looks like any katana except the cross guard is an oval, with what look like 3 small teardrops in relief on both the top and bottom end. Beside Akaku we have Yumashika Yasugawa. She said, indicating to a man who smiled at Kagura. Yumashika has colorful feathers on his right eyelashes and eyebrow. He has shiny skin and jaw-length hair, which, in conjunction with the feathers, gives him a somewhat feminine appearance. Just like Renji, he wore a simple kimono with a flowery pattern on it. He has his Zanpakuto tied to his left side, which average katana with a bronze cross guard shaped like a German cross and a purple handle. In the middle is Kenpachi Zaraki, probably our toughest swordsman. She said, pointing to a man who gave a bloodthirsty grin. Kenpachi is a muscular man while being a juggernaut, towering over everyone with a wild and aggressive appearance. He wears a sleeveless haori which has a ragged look to it as well as black khakis. He styles his spiked hair with small bells at its tips and wears a special eye patch on his right eye that would seal a great portion of his chakra away as it was simply too great. He has green eyes and pronounced hairless eyebrow ridges and a huge scar running down the left side of his face. His Zanpakuto was on his left side, which is much longer than that of a standard Zanpakuto, roughly the size of a nodashi, with a guard that extends inward from its center similar to a shinai. The hilt is white, although most of it is wrapped in bandages, as is his sword's sheath. Next to the big guy is Shuhei Hisagi. She said, pointing to a man with spiky black hair who gave a nod. Shuhei Hisagi is a tall and lean-built man with short black hair and 3 scars straight over his eye that lead down to his right. He also has the number 69 tattooed on his left cheek, as well as a blue striped tattoo running across his left cheek and over the bridge of his nose. He wears a choker around his throat and matching armbands on both upper, as well as similar clothes to Akaku. His zanpakuto is situated on his left side, which looks like a regular katana with an octangular tsuba. Second to last is the beautiful Rangaku Matsumoto. She said with a grin while an blonde-haired woman also grinned. Rangaku has long and wavy blonde hair, blue eyes, full lips, and a beauty mark located under the right side of her mouth. She is well known for her curvaceous figure. Her most distinctive feature of it is her very large, which are even larger than Mei Terumi's. She also wears an outfit simple to Mei. Her zanpakuto is placed behind her waist, which form is that of a straight-bladed katana. The tsuba is in the shape of a cat's head, with two triangles on the top half curving into ear points and the bottom half tapering down into a single point. It has a dark red handle. Last but not least is Izuru Kira. Mei said, pointing to a blonde-haired man. Izuru has blue eyes and shoulder-length blonde hair that is combed into 3 points, with 2 in the back of his head and a third comb to cover his left eye. Izuru also wears a similar style to Akaku and Hisagi, except his trench coat has long sleeves. His zanpakuto, which is tied to his left, is very simple and plain in design. Its normal form is indistinguishable from a plain katana. The cross guard is a normal rectangular one, with only an omega design on the top and bottom half. Kagura smirked at them. God, to see some strong-looking swordsmen. I think we're going to get along just fine. She said with a dark chuckle, creeping a couple out. Even Kenpachi, who was quite a bloodthirsty man, felt dread. Anbu holding cells. Guren's and Tayuya's cell. Naruto had just made it to the two girls' cell as they were sharing one, since they weren't exactly a threat to anyone as they wanted to join with Naruto. Well, Tsunade saw that they wouldn't attack anyone if they were honest about their request. Placing the key into the lock, he twisted and watched as its old iron bars creaked open before walking in and seeing the two girls sat on their respective beds. Picking up the chair by the wall, he placed it down and sat in it as both girls looked at him carefully, as if expecting him to make any sudden move. So, tell me, why do you want to join me? He asked them both. Guren spoke up before Tayuya had a chance. Before we say anything else, I need to know something. She said in a serious voice. Okay. Naruto said, giving a nod for her to continue. Can you use the Shoten bloodline? She asked with calculative eyes boring into his Rinnegan ones. Naruto gave a nod to her question. Yes, I can, but it's not a bloodline for me. I recreated it into a sub-element. How? Guren asked, shocked at such a thing, which made Naruto chuckle. With having the Rinnegan, it gives me the ability to use all elements, including the sixth, gravity. For the past 4s I have recreated Mokuden, Hyoten, and Shoten. He said with a chuckle. Here, let me show you. He said, holding his hand out to the ground. He focused his chakra on it and they all watched as a flower started to sprout through the cracks, getting bigger and bigger each time. Then to Guren's amazement, it started to crystallize from the bottom up until it was fully pink crystal. He then used his powers over gravity and pulled it to his hand. See? He said with a smile as the both were gobsmacked. Amazing. Tayuya said with awe-filled eyes. So why did you want to know? Naruto asked Guren. I can also use Shoten, but mine's a bloodline. I'm the last of my kind, and when I heard about you using it, I thought you were the closest link I could ever have to a family if you're able to do what I can. She said with her head down at having remembered she the last one. Naruto gave a sad smile in understanding. Okay, you can join me. He said with a smile, causing her to look up in shock. Are you sure? She asked with some hope. Of course, I see no reason why not to. He said with a chuckle. Turning to Tayuya, he asked. Why do you want to? Tayuya sighed, fiddled with the hem of her shirt. I never really wanted to work with Orochimaru. The only reason I did was because he killed my family. I had nowhere to go. There was no place safe for me whatsoever. And when I told that Kurenai woman, she told me that I would have place with you, that you needed people to work with, or in general. Naruto studied her for a moment, not sensing any lies. Very well, welcome to the team. He said with a grin. Really? She asked with the same hopeful look as Guren had. Yes, but I need you two to go to Kiri. He said seriously. Why? Guren asked, confused. My girlfriend Kagura is training the next batch of swordsmen there. They all have zanpakutos. To Yuya, I know you have a zanpakuto, and Gurren you don't. So I want you to go there for the sole reason that I want you Gurren to obtain one. It won't be that hard, trust me. Kagura will help you, and to Yuya, I want you to train with your zanpakuto more up there. Want the Mizukage mind? To Yuya asked with a raised eyebrow. Naruto blushed at that but shook his head. May and I have an arrangement. Seeing their skeptical looks, he gave in. She eventually wants to be one of my wives, he said with a chuckle. Are you serious? Gurren asked in shock. But you have a girlfriend. Naruto gave a nod in understanding. Well, I'm legible for the CRA, so I gotta have multiple wives to pass on my bloodline of being able to use all the elements and restore the Namikaze clan. H explained them. I see. Yuya said with a blush at the thoughts of her and Naruto. Naruto chuckled and looked at them both. Like I said, I need you two to go to Kiri as soon as possible. I'll make sure that Tsunade will allow you to leave. Alright, and thanks Naruto-san. Gurren said as Naruto stood up. Naruto chuckled and shrugged. It's what I do, he said with a smile, leaving the two to go prepare for his mission. Team Hubby. Team Hubby had just been to an old Uchiha supply hideout located in a city's ruins. The place was run by cats. That's right, cats. They were very much like Kakashi's dogs as they were able to talk, which the team was grateful for. They then left with new cloaks and supplies ready to do battle with anyone that comes their way. Now all Sasuke had to do was find the location of his brother. Konoha front gates. At the gates now stood Naruto, Kakashi, Yamato, Sakura, Sai, Hinata, Shino and Kiba with Akamaru ready for their mission. They currently had the normal attire on but now wore cloaks as it was raining heavily. Now though they were all prepared, but no one knew of Naruto's side mission to meet Itachi and none of them knew what was going to happen in the near future. One by one they all passed through the gate and started jumping through the tress where they eventually had landed on a roof to discuss their plans and formations on how they were going to do this. Naruto, being a rookie Jonin, let Kakashi be the leader as he had far more experience than he had in leading an operation like this. All right, to start off, we'll make this our starting point, Kakashi said, indicating to the building. We'll search the surrounding 5 kilometers. North, south, east and west. We'll fan out in all directions. If we don't find anything, we'll continue searching outside of the 5 km another center spot, and continue as such. Kakashi finished off. 5 kilometers, Sakura started. But if we fan out that far, we can't use our wireless communication devices, right? And if that happens, we'll be isolated and that'll definitely be bad news. For patrols, it's recommended that we move in 2-man teams at the very least, in case we encounter the enemy. Yamato looked over to Sakura. Sakura, you don't really see it. She then heard a cry of Kuchio's no jutsu. Looking over, she saw Kakashi had summoned a group of nin dogs. Our voices can reach much farther than any wireless communications devices, exclaimed the biggest dog. We can sense danger the fastest with our noses, said another. Naruto saw a familiar dog there and greeted him. Pakun. The dog looked at him, nodded his head in greeting as it was a lazy dog. Alrighty, I'll explain the team makeup now, started Kakashi, getting everyone's attention. For this mission, you each will have 2 of my dog summons with you at all times. 2. Hey. But, stammered Sakura. So then make sure you little kids play nice and get along, Kakashi teased. One of the dogs walked up to Sakura. You can count on me, Sakura-chan. While another said, Jesus, can't you shut up for 1 second? Another dog came up to Shino. I'll go with you, Shino. With another stoic one that just said, this was pretty much perfect for Shino. Sai met his 2 dogs and said, nice to meet you. While one growled and another stayed quiet. Naruto spoke up as nothing had been mentioned about him. And what about me? Kakashi looked over at him, and while he knew Naruto was the strongest there, they still had to make sure. You're the targeted Jinchuriki. The Akatsuki are aiming to take you down. Taking that into account, Yamato and Hinata will be going with you. Hinata has the Byakugan, so she's a good fit for the job. You'll also get the big guy. It was then that the biggest dog, possibly the leader, barked in greeting whilst Hinata came up to Naruto. I won't let you down, Naruto-kun. Naruto smiled at her and said, okay, Kiba, since you have Akamaru, I'll take Pakun. Kiba just grinned while baring his fangs. No problem, we're already prepared. Kakashi then looked at everyone. Is that all right with everyone? First off, our top priority is to chase after Sasuke's scent, after we'll deal with the Akatsuki. Also, if any of you happen into either of them, flee for the time being and return here. Pulling his arm up, he shouted. Spread out. And like that they were blurs in the rain. Team Hubby. The four of them were currently walking down a path by a forest when they all suddenly just stopped. Well then, it's time to go, said Suigetsu before him, and Jugo umped away, leaving Sasuke and Karen. Yes, cheered Karen in her mind. In speed that would make the fourth Hokage jealous, Karen was hung on Sasuke's arm. Sasuke, just me and Sasuke, just the two of us. Sasuke looked at her and said, you gotta go too. Karen was off his arm and walking away in less than a second, saying, damn, leaving a confused Sasuke. Deidara and Toby. Deidara and Toby was currently standing by two large clay birds that they clearly use for transportation. Deidara then held his arm out, which looks to be reattached. See, it's no problem at, Toby, still with that annoying orange spiral mask, spoke up in a too overly happy tone. Well, which do we go after? Sasuke or the Kyuubi? Deidara then got on one of his birds and flew off while asking himself. Now then, I wonder who to go after, Sakura. Sakura, like all the other groups, was going in her own direction looking for Sasuke. However, unlike Naruto, she was determined to bring Sasuke back, hoping to reform Team 7 again. One of the dogs then stopped as it started to sniff the ground. What's the matter? Asked Sakura. It's faint, but it's Uchiha Sasuke's scent, it said, getting a wide-eyed look from the pink-haired girl. Deidara and Toby. The duo was currently flying over a huge expanse of trees that seemed to go on to the end of the earth when all of a sudden Deidara's telescopic left eye picked up movement below. Looks like I found something, Toby, Boy, that was fast, was the over-enthusiastic reply. So which one is it? Kyuubi or Sasuke? How fortunate. Let's go, Toby. So which? Toby asked again while holding his bamboo hat form blowing away. Deidara just smirked. Come on. Hi, Sasuke. Sasuke had been walking for a while now when he heard rustling behind him. Turning around, he called out. Who is it? Come out. A minute later, someone came out. That outfit. You're. Getting a good look at him, he noticed the spiky black hair, orange spiraled mask, and Akatsuki robes. So you're Sasuke-kun, huh? You sure do look a lot like Itachi-san. Sasuke's gaze hardened at that, which made Toby stumble back before running off screaming. Scary. It was then Sasuke heard movement up above. Looking up, he saw Deidara with his hands together and two clay birds flying at it. Katsu! Shouted Deidara as the birds impacted with the ground, exploded where Sasuke stood. Deidara landed near the trees, looking at the smoke coming out of the crater that he just made. I did it. I defeated Sasuke. Yeah. Toby came out of another tree and praised Deidara. That's senpai for you. However, looking back at the crater, they saw Sasuke unarmed with a white snake coiled protectively around him, who seemed to have taken the brunt of the attack. That's senpai for you, Toby said meekly. Deidara rounded on Toby and shouted, shut up. In a poof of smoke, the snake was gone and there stood Sasuke in the middle of the crater. You know, this guy looks kinda strong, commented Toby. To think Orochimaru was beaten by this brat, I just can't believe it. Yeah. Sasuke just seemed to stare at Deidara with his Sharingan active. Look at the nice glare he's giving us, Toby. Yeah. Sasuke finally opened his mouth for the first time. Where's Uchiha Itachi? Deidara seemed surprised by the question and said, huh. Sasuke's eyes bore into his own as he said, tell me, and I'll let you go. Hearing Sasuke say that, Deidara grit his teeth together. Sharingan, Asked Deidara rhetorically. He really is Itachi's little brother. You were only able to kill Orochimaru because of your Uchiha blood, without that and you're nothing. You're nothing but a fool blessed with good genes. Sasuke didn't say anything as they gazed into each other's eyes when all of a sudden faster than most people can see Sasuke shot forward, hand on sword ready, getting just in front of the duo he unsheathed his sword and struck at Toba's midsection. Huh. Toby said before he fell down to the ground. Meanwhile Deidara had already jumped back up onto a tree branch. One down. So I'll ask you, the one with the big mouth, about Itachi. However, as he was talking, Toby was getting up next to him. What are you, Toby? Deidara yelled. Don't let your guard down just because he's a kid. Toby just waved his arms about. His teleportation is too quick. We're no match for him. Sasuke looked at him with narrowed eyes. That guy. Deidara pulled his arms of his pockets and shoved them in his clay bags, allowing the mouths on his hands to eat the clay. First, I'll watch his movements with chakra level C1. He thought as he pulled his hands out, revealing dozens of small clay balls. Toby. Stay back. He shouted as he threw the bombs in the air. He then formed hand signs as the bombs free fell, turning into spiders. However, they didn't get far as Sasuke made a Chidori in his left hand. Swinging his arm in an arc, he used Chidori Senbon, forming countless Senbon of lightning to strike each bomb, pining them to tress in the floor, while some landed next to Toby, who fell over. As Deidara was going to blow them up, Toby shouted in his childish voice. Deidara Senpai. Time out. Don't do it. It was then Toby saw something. Senpai. Behind you. Behind you. Behind Deidara was Sasuke coming at him, intent to kill. However, before Sasuke could get too close, Deidara flipped his hand, throwing a bomb at him, making Sasuke's eyes widen in surprise as it blew up. Senpai. Toby yelled as he saw the area Deidara and Sasuke occupied be blown up, making him bow his head. He was strict, but a good partner, he sobbed. I shall never forget about you, Deidara Senpai. As soon as he finished talking, Deidara came skidding in front of him. Will you shut up? He growled out. Oh, you're alive. Looking across from them, they saw Sasuke unharmed land with his sword drawn still. The ability to produce explosives with his palm. Thought Sasuke. I somehow managed to escape by hiding in the bomb blast. Good thing I kept the chakra level at C1. He definitely moved swiftly, he said, reaching into his pouches again. Bringing his arms back out, clay seemed to pour out like liquid. How about this then? The clay landed on the ground and started to form some sort of humanoid figure while still attached to Deidara palms. I'll play with you a bit more. Just then the two figures started running at Sasuke, only for him to strike with his sword but not able to cut them as it just sticks. Fighting for a minute by striking and dodging, he then using a Chidori cutting one in half and concentrates on the next one, but he isn't that lucky as the two separate pieces form into a figure totaling 3 now. Still trying to cut them and having no luck, rethinks his strategy and moves back, only get attacked again. It's not over yet. Deidara laughed. Charging lightning through his sword, he started to cut them down, only for them to make more, leaving him to face 11. As he continued to fight them and cut them, the smaller they got, but the more in numbers they grow, causing him to fight back more and more. One of them jumped at him, and as he was about to strike it down, Deidara blew it up in his face, causing a big explosion, only for Sasuke to jump out of it and into a tree branch. Toby crossed his arms and nodded his head while saying, "Yeah, I thought so." Which annoyed Deidara. However, he refocused as he maneuvered the rest of the clay soldiers over to the tree, making them jump at him and exploding one by one, making him jump around, dodging left and right. Sasuke was jumping from tree to tree, cutting them down in hopes it would stop the army of clay creatures coming at him. As he landed on one branch, one of the creatures caught his ankle and eventually they all dove at him, sticking there. The clay proceeded to cover Sasuke from head to toe, not a hint of him actually being there, before exploding in a glorious bomb fire that took out a wide range of the forest. Naruto and company. 10 minutes later. Naruto, Hinata, Yamato and the dog just got out of the tree line when they heard a noise behind them. Naruto, Hinata, you know what to do. Yamato whispered. Yeah, replied Naruto. Yes, Hinata said. With that, Yamato spun around while throwing shurikens into the foliage, hoping to get a hit, only for them to hit trees and the floor. It was then a figure stepped out. Kabuto, growled Naruto. Hello Naruto-kun, it looks like I wasn't hiding well enough. Kabuto said as he chuckled, while Naruto looked like he wanted to kill, badly. Yukushi Kabuto, EH. Back in the village you're a wanted criminal with orders to capture on sight, but for you to come out in the open to us willingly, you must have a death wish. Yamato said. Well, I have a little something to talk to Naruto-kun about. So Sasuke really did kill Orochimaru then, otherwise his little buddy wouldn't be here all alone. Naruto said with a smirk as he saw Kabuto get angry. I'd watch your mouth if I was you, you little brat. Growled Kabuto before he got his temper in check. Besides, I've got something that may interest you Naruto-kun. He said, reaching into his cloak and pulled out a book. What's in that then? Asked Yamato. Information on Akatsuki that Orochimaru-sama picked up from his time he joined onwards. It has the members he knows of as well as some of their abilities. Naruto raised an eyebrow at that. And what? You brought it here to negotiate or something? Of course not. I came here to give it to you. Kabuto then chucked the book to Naruto, who caught it easily. The more members you take out, the less I have to worry. Oh really? I thought Akatsuki were after Orochimaru and not you. Questioned Yamato as he was on edge with Kabuto, knowing how deceiving he can be. One can never be too careful. It's also a gift to Naruto-kun. You see, after Orochimaru-sama died, I found myself not knowing who I was again. Without knowing a parent or country, I was taken in by the enemy. From a young age I've moved about countries and villages as a spy. To me, things like countries, villages, they hold no firm reality in my mind. That was of course until I found myself under the wind of Orochimaru-sama, but that presence once again left me. Who am I anyway? The pain of not having an identity, I'd think you should understand, Naruto-kun. But you chose to believe in your own power, that you are Namikaze Naruto, the son of the great Yondaime Hokage and the Red Death. With great persistence you overcame the gazes directed at the Nine Tails. And that's why you came to know your own identity, gaining respect of friends, and with that realization. He paused as he took off his hood to show the right side of his face. But I never attempted to surpass Orochimaru-sama, and merely clung to his great power. He then took off his glasses. But now I truly understand how you felt, you made me become aware. I decided I wished to be like you as well Naruto-kun. And for that reason, he then showed them the left side of his face, showing that his eye was Orochimaru's. With Orochimaru-sama now integrated with this body, I plan on finding a new me, one stronger than Orochimaru-sama himself. Finding a new me, that's a lesson you taught me, and also the reason for the thanks, Naruto-kun. Orochimaru-sama is the symbol of rebirth, and as a goal, greatness meant to be exceeded by me, he'll continue to live inside of me. He finished with an evil cackle while Naruto's eyes narrowed, deciding to wait for Kabuto to do something or make a move himself. Till death do us part, didn't register with you, did it? Naruto joked. Kabuto then revealed his left arm by pulling the sleeve back to show it was full of scales. Orochimaru-sama will grow within me, as you can see it has already taken over. Hinata became confused at that before she used her Byakugan and noticed something disturbing. It's already taken over 30% of his body. So you experimented on yourself to become more like Orochimaru. That's sad. You say you wanted an identity and you implant someone else inside of you. You really are pathetic. Kabuto narrowed his eyes at Naruto before speaking. I'll be going now, the next time we speak I'll kill you. He declared before vanishing. Sasuke and Deidara had been fighting for a while. Both were beat up to the point that they looked like they could have been dead a long time ago. Sasuke's top had been blown off, now he was just wearing his pants and sandals along with his sword on his back. Deidara didn't look any better either. He had blood flowing down his mouth and head with burn marks all over him and could barely stay conscious. Both were now in a forest trying to stand up as they were both equally tired. Deidara tried to stand up but fell down and Sasuke stood up albeit a little shakily. "Where is Itachi?" Sasuke asked as he walked closer to Deidara. However, Deidara wasn't going to tell him anytime soon as he held out both his palms where the mouths opened up sending two clay snakes at Sasuke. The snakes wrapped around Sasuke's feet who stared unaffected. Chidori Nagashi. Lightning shot around Sasuke shooting through the snakes destroying them as the bolts went through them eventually hitting Deidara who was flung backwards. After using that jutsu though Sasuke fell back as he was already exhausted from fighting before. "Hey, aren't you at your limit as well? At last you're out of chakra." Deidara taunted Sasuke as he tried to move but found he couldn't. "Cuckoo, I'll win no matter what. Even if I'm unable to move, my bombs can for me." Deidara looked at Sasuke and found him glaring at him. "Considering the situation at hand, you could show some fear, don't you think?" This time my art will win, and you'll die, hee 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 hee." Deidara giggled like a madman. However, Sasuke just carried on glaring at the man. "That really pissed me off. It's exactly like your brother. Stop acting so damn cool. Those eyes. Those damned eyes make me go mad. I can't stand them anymore always looking down at my art. Those eyes that see my art without showing any amazement, I can't stand them criticizing my art." Deidara yelled at the top of his voice while panting as he was already tired. Sasuke however just seemed to stare. "I don't give a damn about all of this. Just tell me where Itachi is." Sasuke's eyes then morphed back into the original onyx color. Deidara then started to growl at Sasuke for deactivating the Sharingan which to him felt like he was being underestimated by Sasuke which just angered him more. Reaching up to his mesh shirt he grabbed the top of it and pulled it ripping it off. On Deidara's left side of his chest was what looked like a stitched-up mouth much like the ones on his hands, however this one had an array of seal fixated around it. What made it creepy was the fact that it was in the position of his heart, almost as if he didn't have one. Pulling out some clay from his pocket he started to undo the stitches ending up revealing a gruesome mouth as a tongue started dangling out the side as if it was a panting dog. Putting the clay in the mouth it started munching on it. While that was happening strange lines appeared all over Deidara like they were cracks before they started disappearing along with his body all converging on the mouth which in the end ended up like a small skull. However before anything could happen Deidara's voice rang through the clearing. "This is the end for you now Uchiha Sasuke." With that said Deidara started to glow before completely exploding in a massive light engulfing its surrounding area which made Sasuke stumble back before he was encased in it. The explosion carried on until it reached far out creating a massive crater before it shot up high into the sky and parted the clouds completely illuminating the area as it was raining seconds ago. Naruto. It was then that they felt the ground shake a bit when all of a sudden literally shook. Looking up behind them they seen a massive light that went as high as the clouds parting them. They could feel the explosion getting worse. "What is that?" asked Hinata. "I don't know," said Naruto. "But we need to get there." With that they took off to the explosion. Karen looked up at the light as it darkened the sky with great worry. She knew Sasuke was there as she felt him but now. Sasuke. Putting her hand into a seal she searched for his chakra when, "No. I can't find it." She set off in the direction as well. Naruto's friends. They all looked at the explosion worry. As they weren't near each other they hoped it wasn't one of the others, they rushed over there quickly. However Kakashi could feel the familiar chakra of the Akatsuki member when he went on the Gaara retrieval squad with Team Guy and almost killed him. Zetsu. As usual the Akatsuki's #1 spy had been following the fight since the start as he needed to judge Sasuke's skill level against Deidara. Even though Deidara wasn't in the top tier of the members he was still strong in his own right and should Sasuke beat him it would be easy where to place him. Deidara went and blew himself up. "I wonder where Toby is. He must have gotten caught in that bang," he said looking up at the still blinding light. "Suigetsu. That's the rendezvous point." He didn't. Suigetsu panicked as he saw the light. pulling his cloak out of the way. He pulled a scroll out of his belt which had a snake on it. Looking over it, he noticed the snake dissolving off of it. Oh my god, he did! He exclaimed before he shot off. Explosion sight. The light had finally died down now. However, what forest was there was not just an empty barren wasteland with a crater in the middle with smoke rising from it. Akatsuki. In the base, all the members were stood on the fingertips of the statue which houses the Biju. All was quiet until Zetsu shimmered in on one the empty fingers. Deidara has died. He died by using himself to make huge bomb. He informed them. Kisame chuckled at that. Oh well, looks like another one hits the dust. At this rate there won't be any left. And I thought he was strong too. He complimented. And who took him out? Sasuke. Or the Kyuubi Jinchuriki? Sasuke. However, Itachi looked over. I hearing however. Sasuke died as well. Itachi stayed quiet at that, although he did narrow his eyes slightly while Kisame made a comment. Decided to go with MEH. Pain looked over at Itachi-san, said in his usual monotone. Be grateful, Itachi. Deidara sacrificed his life to remove one of our burdens. Zetsu then remembered something else. Oh, I almost forgot. Toby died as well. Deidara didn't care who he blew up. Ah, yes, Toby. Although it's a shame that even that coward couldn't run away in time. It must have been quite a bang. Kisame commented. Pain though didn't seem to care. Whatever, anyone would be able to fill his pot. On the other hand, it's a pit that Deidara died. For Toby to brighten our otherwise dark organization, he did have quite an ability. Kisame remarked. Pain put his hands in a seal, causing his projection to shimmer. I'll go, if for nothing else than to give me respects for Deidara. He said before he vanished. Konan, who had been silent the entire time, was inwardly worried. What if Naruto-kun was caught? No, he wouldn't get caught off guard so easily, he better hope so. She inwardly threatened. Suigetsu had just made it to an open field before he took out the same scroll he was holding before, unraveling it open and laying it down on the ground. The scroll displayed a summing seal. Taking out a container from his pocket, he took the lid off and poured the contents on the seal. All right, he said, lifting his arm up. Kuchio's no jutsu, he shouted as he slammed his hand on the seal. No later than he slammed his hand down did a massive cloud of smoke appeared, showing the outline of a creature inside it. As the smoke dispersed, it revealed Manda, the snake boss, with the Sharingan in its eyes. So, this is Orochimaru's summon Manda. How could someone control him when Orochimaru himself had trouble? Suigetsu asked himself. It was then he saw the Sharingan dissipating from its eyes, revealing pure yellow snake eyes. I see, through Genjutsu. Suigetsu then looked around Manda to see Sasuke stumbling forward. Ah, he said as he collapsed forward on his knees. Suigetsu rushed to him and knelt down to eye level. Man, you're all beat up. Who dia fight? He asked. Before Sasuke could answer, Manda shouted. You trash used me. Sasuke then looked up at it. Those eyes, you used those eyes to control me. Sasuke just looked at him, bored as it said its last words. Use me, and just like that the great lord of the snakes Manda died. Ah man, he died. Suigetsu pointed out nonchalant. You do realize that was Orochimaru's favorite pet. He then looked back at Sasuke. You gotta treat animals better than that, you know, and to go on controlling them all with Genjutsu, man, he rambled on. Sasuke looked up at him and said. There was no time, I did what I had to. I knew you were here. A voice shouted. They looking over to the side, they saw Karen and Jugo running to them. Your chakra suddenly vanished, so I was wondering what happened, and you were just teleporting. It was then Suigetsu looked back at Sasuke. Well, we don't care about how you put yourself inside and used space and time ninjutsu to teleport yourself to another R. We want know why you're so beat up. He asked. Just before we escaped, we got caught in the blast. My opponent was one of the Akatsuki. He was much stronger than I thought. Sasuke's a hunk even when he's all beaten up, Karen thought dreamily. Well, it seems like we'll need to take a bit of a break. Suigetsu informed them. Akatsuki. Pain was currently sat on the edge of the skyscraper human tongue with one leg up with his right arm hung over it and his other leg dangling off the edge as he looked out over the horizon. It was then that Conan came up behind him. Pain, come here, he's here. He's acted faster than I thought. I need to be careful. If he suspects anything, I'll kill myself before he can find anything out on Naruto-kun. She was a little afraid of how fast Madara had taken action now, as she hadn't thought he would move so fast. However, it would seem that Sasuke's little adventure had sped up the plans. Pain stood up and dusted off his cloak before he turned around and stepped into the room. So how was Sasuke? Asked Pain to a figure that was bathed in the shadows. Not bad all. He made extremely good use of his Sharingan. Those eyes will be better than Itachi's, the figure said as he was putting on a cloak by the sound of ruffling. The time is ripe. You can bet he's prepared himself, as it won't be long now. The figure said. So it's time to get the Kyuubi? Asked Pain, and although you couldn't see it, you could feel the nod. You do it, as you are the leader. I won't accept failure. Madara, however, was well aware of the new power Naruto had gotten. 2 Zanpakutos in an inner hollow. I could sense it from a while away. I will have to send my Arrancar soon. They will definitely take care of Naruto. They are the ultimate Zanpakuto wielders, and to think they say Orochimaru never does something worthwhile. Itachi and Kisame. Itachi and Kisame were currently stood on the outside of the cave where stood in with the remaining members of Akatsuki. Itachi all of a sudden looked up at the sky as rain pelted down in his face. It hasn't let up one bit. It's odd for it to be raining so much, especially at this time of year. Kisame said. Itachi walked forward closer to the edge of the cliff while Kisame watched him curiously. You'll catch a cold if you stay out here for too long, you know. Itachi just remained silent, slowly annoying Kisame even if he was used to it. Look, I'm not sure what you're thinking, and given how ruthless you are. It's strange to say this, but from here it looks like you're crying. Still remaining silent, Kisame pressed on. It's certainly a shame about your little brother. You're now the sole member of the Uchiha clan. Finally Itachi spoke up, albeit quiet. No, he's not dead, and besides. What? Itachi turned around, sharing still active the whole time. The storm, has passed. And indeed I had, as the clouds were parting clearly. Team Hubby. Sasuke and his team were currently in a hotel room. Sasuke was sat in a futon while the other 3 were either at the window or leaning against the wall. Did anyone get any leads on Itachi? Sasuke asked. Karen, shocked, shouted. Are you kidding? You're half dead, you're still trying to be a hero. Suigetsu, actually being kind of helpful, spoke up. I heard plenty about the group Akatsuki as a whole, but no specific information is known. Seeing Sasuke nod, he carried on. It seems that they're after some kind of special people with weird chakra. Special. Jugo, who had a bird on his bare shoulder, looked at Sasuke. From what the animals tell me, Akatsuki has several bases they operate out of. They say that they feel unpleasant chakra radiating from those places. Suigetsu, seeing a golden opportunity, take it. Ha ha ha. Never woulda guessed that a bunch of stupid animals could sense chakra. Then again, stupid animals, pretty much describes Karen as a whole, huh? What lead to that was Karen kicking him in the face, only making it turn to water. You stupid. I am fed up with your shit talking. Karen yelled at him, still beating him up. Come on, cut it out. While they were doing that, Jugo was feeling his urges again at seeing violence. They became aware when he spoke. Kill. I wanna kill someone, anyone. Suigetsu and Karen panicked and grabbed a hold of him to stop him from moving. Shit, Jugo's freaking out again. Hurry, Sasuke. Sasuke simply looked at Jugo with his Sharingan active. Settle down, Jugo. And like a puppy listens to his master, stopped and fell to his knees, panting. Sorry. He apologized. Meanwhile, Sasuke had fallen asleep. Blast site. Currently at the blast site was all the Konoha shinobi except Naruto, Yamato and Hinata, who were close. Sakura, hearing running, looked at the source, Naruto. Naruto, seeing everyone there, stopped just in front of them. So everyone else seen what happened, he trailed off looking at the crater. Not that it wasn't hard to notice. What happened here anyway? Sasuke-kun was here a moment ago, we followed his scent. Sakura said a bit downcast. There's still a faint trace of scent, as well as a bunch of others people's ones. Kiba explained. Naruto sighed. This was becoming troublesome. So most likely Sasuke has his own team now. Point 2 looking around surveying the damage, he said. And there must have been one hell of a battle. One of the nin dogs that were with Sakura spoke up. I recognize one of these scents mixed with Sasuke's I smelled back in town. It looks like Sasuke certainly has his own team. Two of these other scents are Akatsuki. I recognize one of them from a blonde clay bomber. Kakashi said. Sakura looked up at that in confusion. You mean the one you sent to another dimension? Kakashi nodded. Naruto quirked an eyebrow at that. I take it this was from the Gaara retrieval. Seeing a nod and confused looks, he explained. Tsunade informed me. Pakun then came up to the group. Unfortunately, we can't follow them, the trail ends here. Yamato stepped forward. One possibility is that he was obliterated by the huge explosion. Another is that he also could have used transportation jutsu to teleport himself elsewhere. Naruto looked around for Sasuke's chakra source but could only pick up on the chakra residue left behind. He sighed. I could only pick on the chakra residue. Kiba, who came out of his stupor once he heard him talk, sniffed around before speaking. Sasuke used transportation jutsu, he said, alerting everyone. Nowadays my nose is even better than a ninja hound's, I found Sasuke. Amazing, even better than that of a nin dog. Kiba's improved too, the Inuzuka must be proud, these kids will have me out of the job in no time. Thought Kakashi. Lead the way, Kiba. With that they bounded off. Akatsuki, Namikaze Naruto, is no longer a helpless child, said the figure that was still in the shadows. He's learned some formidable jutsus, he has insane strength, mastery over all the elements, and let's not forget that he is also a Rinnegan user. It will not be easy capturing him, he killed Kakuzu single-handedly. Don't forget he also has Zanpakutos, you know how strong they can be. Pain just looked over and patted a sword in his side. Of course, I have my own. There's no need to describe our target with such scary language. Conan said motionlessly. Pain has never lost a battle. Hoo, this is true, I've said what I came to say, tell the remaining members to hurry up and capture their own Jinchuriki. I know. Pain replied. The figure then stepped out of the shadows, revealing himself wearing the Akatsuki but not bright enough to see his face. Soon, all our goals will be achieved, and when they are, everything will be as it should. Stepping out onto the balcony, the lightning flashed from outside, showing his orange spiraled mask. The Sharingan's true power, my power, Uchiha Madara's power. He declared before he turned around, and a small vortex appeared around his lone sharing eye before he vanished, leaving Pain and Conan alone. Conan sighed and looked outside. The sky cries again, Pain, you will die, I'm sorry. Team Hubby. The team was already on their way to look for Itachi, as Karen had warned them about sensing Konoha shinobi nearby, so they left the hotel as quickly as they came. The group was curious about how Sasuke had healed so quickly, while he just told them it must have been Orochimaru's healing abilities, while he thought he was the White Snake's power. Nevertheless they left. Konoha shinobi. How's it coming, Kiba? Came the voice of Naruto. I need to focus as hard as I can so I don't lose what little scent is left, shut up and let me concentrate. He yelled back at Naruto, who nodded in understanding. A moment later and Kiba abruptly stopped dead. Whoa, Kiba, everything alright? Asked Naruto. We're in trouble. Sasuke's on the move. Sasuke's scent just split up. It's scattering in every direction. He yelled from atop Akamaru. They must have a chakra sensing type of shinobi on their team that noticed us and came up with a plan to fool our senses. Kakashi deduced. Kiba looked back and yelled. If we split up too far, our radios won't work. And I'm the only tracker that can find him. Which scent am I supposed to go with? Naruto shut his eyes, thinking before grinning to himself as his eyes snapped open, Crossing both index and middle fingers together, he shouted. You didn't count me out, did you? Especially when I have my own tricks up my sleeve, Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Over 100 clones popped into existence before they were all sent on their way for Sasuke. Team Hubby. The four of them were currently in the forest, knelt down, figuring the next way to go, or rather Karen was. Up ahead, asked Sasuke. You three stay here and wait for my orders, I'll check it myself. With that, he jumped further into the trees. Naruto. Naruto was currently jumping from tree to tree on his own when he heard a noise behind him. Jumping down the tree, he skidded up to one to peer around, only to come in eye contact with a pair of Sharingan eyes. Finally, either Sasuke or Itachi, he thought as the figure walked out, revealing itself to be Itachi. Come out, Namikaze Naruto, Itachi ordered. You know that whole doom and gloom thing suits you well. Naruto said as he appeared in front of him, leaning against a tree as if he wasn't in front of an S-rank missing nin. Itachi chuckled at Naruto's behavior. I take it Jiraiya-sama has spoken to you. Naruto sighed and nodded his head. I gotta say, he started only to close his eyes. My respect for you certainly went up when I heard. At that, Itachi's eyes widened in surprise. Why do you say that? Itachi inquired, truly interested in his reasons. Naruto opened his eyes and looked at Itachi while stepping away from the tree. Killing off your entire family and clan is a mission by the village that takes guts. I honestly don't think I could ever do that. Hell, I'd rather go rogue than have that on my conscience. Itachi got a small smile on his face hearing that. I understand, but from where I can see it, the village is better off. It would be better if those old crones on the council weren't in it. They're as corrupt as Akatsuki these days. Itachi let a bitter chuckle escape his mouth at that. On to other matters. What would you do should Sasuke attack Konoha? Naruto sighed at that. Honestly, receiving a nod, he carried on. I know he's your brother, but I'll have to kill him. I once thought of him as a brother, but the day he left and tried to kill me was the day we lost our ties. I won't go after him just to kill him, but should he threaten anyone dear to me, I won't hold back. Itachi, kind of expecting that answer, smiled genuinely at the sincerity, and while he didn't want his little brother killed, he didn't want Konoha destroyed either. I see. What did you want to see me about? Akatsuki. Causing Naruto's eyes to widen. I have information to pass on to you. Holding up a book that seemed to be big, he threw it to Naruto, who flipped through it and sealed it into a scroll. Is that everything? Only to receive a shake of the head. There's something that Madara has hidden in Akatsuki. Itachi told Naruto. What? Naruto asked, confused. Zanpakuto wielders, only these are different. Itachi said while looking at Naruto in the eye. They are called Arankar. Years ago, Orochimaru had a bunch of other Zanpakuto-wielding people captured. He had found out that all those people are special as they contained an inner hollow, which to him sounded like his curse seal. So after some experimentation with them, the curse seal and other types of DNA, eventually all the Shinigami hybrids had eventually had their inner hollow become so merged with them that they became a completely different kind of being with strange abilities. Eventually they had all broken out, but some of them had become so tainted with the power that they had become evil and gone to work for Akatsuki, believing they would gain more power. Unlike normal Zanpakuto wielders, they did not have Shikai or Bankai, but rather something called Resurrection that allowed them to become more like their inner hollow and much more powerful. Itachi explained to him. How much more powerful? Naruto asked, a little disturbed by this turn of events. That could overpower a Bankai easily if some wanted to. He explained. Do you know what they call people like you? Zanpakuto wielders with an inner hollow they can use. No, I didn't know there was a name. Naruto said with a frown. Your race is called the Vizards. There are people like you out there, and I'm sure in time that you will meet them. Itachi said before he started walking closer to Naruto. I also have a gift to give you. He then shot forward with his arm outstretched. Konoha. Hokage's office. Tsunade was sat behind her desk while reading reports and sorting out missions when Jiraiya came through the door looking giddy. Jiraiya, do you have new information? It was no secret she wanted every detail of Akatsuki to try and stop them. Jiraiya pointed at himself with a proud smile. We've discovered the whereabouts of Akatsuki's leader. Tsunade shot up immediately and slammed her hands on her desk. Seriously. Tell me everything, she ordered while Shizune, who was next to her, also shouted. We'll use the information to lay an ambush immediately. Jiraiya just waved his hands in the air. Now, not so hasty. This isn't like one of your books, we can't just take it at a leisurely pace. Tsunade barked. Jiraiya closed his hands and waged his finger mockingly. Nothing good will come from rushing into things, especially in a major gamble like this one. How's this, we'll go out for a drink, just the two of yous, just like old times, I'll tell you everything there. What? Yelled Tsunade. You idiot. I'm the Hokage. How can I be drinking at this hour? Think of all the shinobi ISWHO are on active duty right now. 2 minutes later, in a sake bar sat Jiraiya and the ever-obvious Tsunade, who was pouring sake down her throat like it might vanish. You know, you could try paying attention to your own advice, you are Hokage after all. Jiraiya said dryly. Tsunade either chose to ignore him or didn't hear. This Akatsuki leader, is in Omegakure, right? Jiraiya nodded. But, that place is strict about inspecting everyone who enters or leaves and keeps 24-hour surveillance. Even when they're hosting the Chunin exam, they refuse to relax their security, it's inconvenient for everybody. It's not the sort of place where a guy like this could move around so easily. But that in itself is the reason. Since the country keeps its internal affairs private, they've been hiding their shame for a long time. Jiraiya responded. Shame? Questioned Tsunade, who had a small blush because of the sake. It seems that country has been engaged in civil war for quite a while now, the village itself is divided. Akatsuki leader is also the leader of one of those two factions. He explained. That country, it's bordered by the three major countries, Earth, Wind and Fire. Those countries have often used it as a battleground in past conflicts. They have never been stable internally, and I hear they have a lot of trouble with refugees. Tsunade replied. And so our priority should be to determine whether this information is accurate. I'm going to infiltrate them and investigate. We can discuss what action to take afterwards. He never got to finish as Tsunade shouted. That's too dangerous for you to attempt alone. I'm one of Konoha's Sannin, you should understand what that entails. He argued back. Tsunade looked away in shame at Jiraiya having to do this and not her. I'm sorry, you always get stuck with the dirty work. Haha, what's with you all of a sudden? He laughed out. I'm saying you should have been made the Hokage in the first place, that's what the Sandaime always wanted. That's not for me. I prefer the unfettered life. You've been regretting that you couldn't stop Orochimaru, and investigating his movements all the time, haven't you? Tsunade made it sound more of a statement than a question, which was what it really was. Well, there's no need for that anymore. Now I'll be able to get my books out more quickly. He said a little happier. But fact is stranger than fiction. Who would have thought he would actually die, she said, reminiscing of their old team. Later, the two remaining Sannin were currently sat on a park bench relaxing as they watched the sunset. Akatsuki, someone who has manager to gather a group of that strength, I can't start to think how strong he must be, and now you're planning to head right into the palm of his hand. Tsunade said as she felt like the whole world was on her shoulders. Well, I guess I should be going. Jiraiya said as he stood up. Make sure you come back alive. Tsunade told him as she looked down at the floor. If I lose you on top of everything Tsunade was interrupted, but Jiraiya. You'd cry for me. That's nice to know. But I doubt you cry as much as you did for Dan, ha 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 ha. Jiraiya joked, or at least tried to ease the situation. You fool. Tsunade whispered harshly. Then how about we make a gamble of it? You can bet that I'll die. Since there's no way you'd ever win a bet. And in return, when I make it back alive. What? Asked Tsunade in shock. Bwahahahah. I'm joking. I've a lot to thank you for. Said Jiraiya, joking about, which then earned a questioning look. A guy gets stronger when turned down, and he's useless unless he's experienced it enough to joke about it. Otherwise he won't have enough material. So it's makes duty to be strong, is it? Tsunade asked with a hint of sarcasm. Well, yeah, and happiness isn't something that men are meant to seek. You can't even get rejected without us women, she joked. Ha ha, that's for sure. If anything happens, send a toad to tell me. I'll come for you right away. Don't say things like that. You're not to leave the village. The village is relying on you right now. There are a number of people who could take over as Hokage. A village can't stay stable if its leader keeps on changing. There's nobody in this village that can do the job better than you can. Jiraiya argued back at her. We have Kakashi, and we have Naruto if he decides to become a shinobi again. Kakashi's fair enough. Naruto certainly is stronger than any of the other Kages before, but he has too much on his plate right now. Naruto's been training like crazy, you even taught him Rasengan. Well, that was on a whim for old time's sake. I got thinking back to when I was teaching Minato. Quote, Namikaze Minato, there certainly is a resemblance. Nah, Minato had the sort of talent you only find once in a decade. We haven't had another genius like him since. He was a kind man, and yet his spirit was incredible. He became the fourth in the blink of an eye, he said, closing his eyes, remembering the times. I've never had kids, so I wouldn't really know, but, if he was mine, I'd be damn proud. Haha. When you say that, it makes me think Naruto isn't that much like him at all. If you were to ask me, I'd say he takes more after his mother. Tsunade trailed off. Right, she was that kunoichi from the former country of whirlpools, Jiraiya said, reminiscing. That's right, when it comes to his personality and his jutsu, he's just like Uzumaki Kushina. Ah, that was her name, yeah, always talking, that tomboy with the red hair. She was just like a little boy. Jiraiya laughed. Though she did become a real beauty when she grew up, Naruto's face is more like his father's. That's why I always see him when I look at Naruto. For me, it's almost like looking at a grandson. With that, he grabbed his gigantic scroll and tied it on his back. Well then, I'll get going. Ah, that's right, I've got a piece of advice to give you before I go. Make sure you stay away from people in route. Yes, I know. Tsunade spoke sadly, already having the feeling she won't see him again. Well then, that's fine then. See you. Naruto. Itachi had just grabbed Naruto by the head where black crows had flown straight into Naruto's mouth, almost making him throw up, and now he was on his knees panting. What the hell was that? Itachi chuckled and said, I'm sorry for the process, but I gave you some of my power, a precaution for the future. I hope you don't have to use it, however. I see. Thank you for everything you've done, Weasel-san. He said, using Itachi's old Anbu code name, causing his eyes to widen in surprise. You remember. You're welcome, Naruto-kun, but I must be going now, goodbye. With that, Itachi just vanished in thin air. Though Naruto heard the hidden meaning when he said goodbye, he was going to die.